more questions about their response.
Uy, ya va a empezar.
I mean, it's still a little intense, but I mean, I'll deal with it. Thank you for asking. Don't make it better. Better? Better. Yeah? Yeah, the higher the better. All right. All right, everybody. About to get started.
Good morning. Thank you for being here today. My name is Stephen McCraw, Director of Texas Department of Public Safety. On Tuesday, the District Attorney for the 38th Judicial District, Christina Mitchell, requested that the Texas Rangers under the Department of Public Safety assume lead responsibility of this horrific murder of 19 innocent child and 2 adults. Our goal today is to provide the parents, the community of Uvalde, the public, as much information as we can on where we are on the investigation. We're here to report facts as we know them now, not to defend what was done or to criticize what was done or the actions taken. I'll begin first and foremost with the timeline as we know it. The second timeline I'll discuss is the 911 timeline. Then we'll talk about the relevant social or digital media footprint of the subject. We'll also have plenty of time for questions at that point. At 11:27, we know from video evidence, 11:27, the exterior door suspected of where we knew the shooter entered, Ramos, was propped open by a teacher. 11:28, the suspect vehicle crashes into the ditch, as previously described. The teacher runs to the room 132 to retrieve a phone, and that same teacher walks back. There were 2 males, as reported by Regional Director Escalon yesterday. There were 2 males at a funeral home that when they heard the crash, they went to the crash scene. When they arrived at the crash scene, before they got there, they saw a man with a gun exit the passenger side with a backpack. They immediately began running. Ramos began shooting at him. Did not hit him. One of the males fell when he was running. Both males returned to the funeral home while they're running. And then again, we see through video, teacher reemerges inside the school in panic and apparently calls 911. 911 call at 11:30. If there was a crash, man with a gun. 11:31, the suspect reaches last row of vehicles to the school parking lot. 11:31, the suspect shooting began at the school while patrol vehicles got to the funeral home. I'll point out where it is.
We're clear? Okay, great. Thanks.
Crash vehicles over here. Suspect hiding behind a vehicle, started walking down, shooting into the classroom. There was a discussion early on that an ISD, consolidated ISD for Uvalde, had officer, was a resource officer, had confronted the subject. That did not happen, as RDS Malone talked about yesterday. It was certainly stated in preliminary interviews, but often these preliminary interviews and a cursory walkthrough doesn't reveal the type of information, and certainly the police officers, like anyone else, under stress, sometimes witnesses get it wrong. But the bottom line is that officer was not on scene, not on campus, but had heard the 911 call with a man with a gun, drove immediately to the area, sped to what he thought was the man with a gun, to the back of the school, what turned out to be a teacher, and not the suspect. And doing so, he drove right by the suspect, who was hunkered down behind the vehicle, where he began shooting at the school. (11:31), the suspect shooting in between the vehicle is when it began. While the patrol vehicle gets to the funeral home. Multiple shots are fired outside the school at 11:31. Patrol car accelerates in the parking lot, drives by the shooter. That's exactly what I was talking about, the ISD officer at that time. He passes and leaves the camera view. There's multiple shots fired at the school at 11:32, at 11:32:27, 11:32:36. At 11:33 is when the suspect entered the school at the door that I'm pointing to now. At 11:33, the suspect begins shooting into room 111 or 112. It's not possible to determine from the video angle that we have at this point in time. We do know this, that he shot more than 100 rounds based on the audio evidence at that time, at least 100 rounds. He entered at 11:33, or 11:33, he started shooting in the classrooms, 111 and 112. At 11:35, 3 police officers entered the same doors the suspect entered. All 3 of those police officers worked for the Uvalde Police Department. They were later followed by another 4, a team of Uvalde police officers, 3, and also a county deputy sheriff. So a total of 7 officers were on the scene. The 3 initial police officers that arrived went directly to the door, and 2 received grazing wounds at that time from the suspect, while the door was closed. At 11:37, there was more gunfire. Another 16 rounds was fired at 11:37. 1 at 11:37 and 16 seconds, 11:38, 11:40, 11:44. At 11:51, a police sergeant and USB agent started to arrive. At 12:03, officers continued to arrive in the hallway, and there were as many as 19 officers at that time in that hallway. At 12:15, we know that BORTAC members arrived. Not the entire BORTAC, but members of BORTAC, along with Shields. At 12:21, the suspect fired again, was believed to be at the door. At 11:21, law enforcement moved down the hallway. At 11:50, they breached the door using keys that they're able to get from the janitor, because both doors were locked. Both of the classrooms that he shot into were locked when officers arrived. They killed the suspect at that time. And now I'd like to go over the 911 timeline. So I warn you, it's not it's better that I read it than you listen to it. The caller identified, I'll not say her name, but she was in room 112, called 911 at 12:03. The duration of the call was 1 minute and 23 seconds. She identified herself and whispered she's in room 112. At 12:10, she called back in room 12, advised there were multiple dead. 12:13, again, she called on the phone. Again, at 12:16, she's called back and said there was 8 to 9 students alive. At 12:19, a 911 call was made, and another person in room 111 called. I will not say her name. She hung up when another student told her to hang up. At 12:21, you could hear over the 911 call that 3 shots were fired. At 12:36, 911 call that lasted for 21 seconds. The initial caller called back, student, child, called back, was told to stay on the line and be very quiet. She told 911 that he shot the door. At approximately 12:43 and 12:47, She asked 911 to please send the police now. At 12:46, she said that she could hear the police next door. At 12:50, shots are fired. They could be heard. It was a 911 call. And at 12:51, it's very loud and sounds like the officers are moving children out of the room. At that time, the first call that called was outside before the call cuts off. Additional information that we have is there are 58 total magazines at the school related to the crime scene. 11 of those magazines were inside the school. 3 were on the suspect's body. 2 in room 112, 6 inside room 111. 5 were on the ground, 1 was in the rifle. There are 32 magazines outside the school, but on school property. 1 just outside the school building, and 31 in the suspect's backpack that he did not take into the classrooms with him. There's 15 magazines at the crash site. There are 2 magazines at the suspect's residence for a total of 60 magazines. He had purchased and had a total of 1,657 total rounds of ammunition. 315 of those rounds were inside the school. 142 of those were spent cartridges. 173 were live rounds. 922 were outside of the school, but on school property. 22 of those were spent cartridges. 900 were live rounds. 422 were at the crash site. 22 were spent cartridges. 420 of those were live rounds. There's 35 spent law enforcement cartridges total in the school. 8 of those were in the hallway. 27 were inside the classroom. 111 where the suspect was killed. I mentioned that I'm going to go over quickly a digital timeline. Like we talked about early, and I want to correct something that was said early on in the investigation, is that he posted, on Facebook publicly that he was going to that he was going to shoot his grandmother, and secondly, after that he had shot her, and the third, that he was going to go shoot up a school. That did not happen. It was actually on a message. It was a Facebook messenger application to somebody else that he had a conversation with. We know that through his digital media footprint, and I'll just do it by date time, that Ramos asked his sister to help him buy a gun. She flatly refused. That was in September of 21. I'll avoid some of these and get to he had Instagram, a 4-group chat, and it was discussed that Ramos being a school shooter. That was on February 28th of 2022. On March 1st of 2022, there was an Instagram he had with 4 people. It was a chat. He discussed him buying a gun. On March 3rd, 2022, there's another 4-person chat. Quotations, word on the street is you are buying a gun. Ramos replied, just bought something. RN. On March 14th, and there was an Instagram posting by the subject, in quotations, 10 more days. The user replied, are you going to shoot up the school or something? The subject replied, no, and stop asking dumb questions and you will see. I know you have many questions, and I've agreed to stay as long as we can and answer as many of those questions as we can. If I can't answer it, because we don't know definitively right now, I'll simply say that. And it continues to be a preliminary investigation. There's, literally, certainly over hundreds of interviews have been conducted, will continue to be conducted, and there's thousands of leads that be pursued, not consecutively, but concurrently. And thanks to of our federal and local partners. And I do want to mention behind me, we've got the FBI Special Agent in charge. We also have an ATF Special Agent in charge, or ASAC, and of course, who else do I got behind? Okay. With the Texas Rangers, if there's any specifics that I haven't covered that I might need their particular support on. I do want to cover one thing quickly, though, before I go to questions. And that's some of the questions that we received, that we have already received. And one of those is going around now that in fact, the subject had been one of the two arrested by the Texas Rangers and the local police back in 2018. That's not the case. It was not one of the individuals. In fact, we have found no links, associations, and relationships in that investigation. Clearly, it was a threat. It was back in 2018. Two juveniles were charged with attempted or conspiracy to commit capital murder. There's no question that we thought, and we had evidence, and certainly the district attorney agreed, that these juveniles, one 13, one 14 years old, was a threat to Uvalde. And there was a discussion at that time, even the senior year of the one that was 14 years old, which would make it 2022. However, it was not the subject. Questions?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Oh, one thing I want to say, one thing I failed to say is that when we're done, we have Tony Pena with us. He's going to translate into Spanish, okay, what the answers and the questions are afterwards. None at that time. The on-scene commander at the time believed that it had transitioned from an active shooter to a barricaded subject.
Sir, you have people who are alive, children who are calling 911 saying, please send the police. They are alive. In that classroom, there are lives that are at risk.
Hey, we're well aware of that.
Right. Yeah. Why was this decision made not to go in and investigate?
Again, the on-scene commander considered it a barricaded subject, and that there was time and there were no more children at risk. Obviously, based upon the information we have, there were children in that classroom that were at risk, and it was, in fact, still an active shooter situation and not a barricaded subject. The question simply is this: it's a 40-minute gap. And if the 911 operators were aware that children were alive in that classroom, why weren't officers notified of that? And if that's the case, why didn't they take action? That's the question. And again, I'll go back to the answer for right now, is that it was considered, okay, the decision was made on the scene. I wasn't there. At the same point in time, a decision was made that this was a barricaded subject situation. There was time to retrieve the keys and wait for a tactical team with the equipment to go ahead and breach the door and take on the subject at that point. That was the decision. That was the thought process at that particular point in time. What? And there was 19, like I said, there was 19 officers in there. In fact, there was plenty of officers to do whatever needed to be done, with one exception, is that the incident commander inside believed they needed more equipment and more officers to do a tactical breach at that point. That's why board tack was requested on the scene. As soon as they were there, they executed a search, or at least a dynamic entry, and went in. And of course, that was not the 12. That was not the 1257. With the benefit of hindsight, the benefit of, stand by, right? I got it. Okay. Hey, from the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision. Period. There's no excuse for that. But again, I wasn't there, but I'm just telling you, from what we know, we believe there should have been an entry at that as soon as you can. Hey, when there's an active shooter, the rules change. It's no longer, okay, it's no longer a barricaded subject. You don't have time. You don't worry about outer perimeters. And by the way, Texas embraces active shooter training, active shooter certification, and that doctrine requires officers. We don't care what agency you're from. You don't have to have a leader on the scene. Every officer lines up, stacks up, goes and finds where those rounds are being fired at, and keeps shooting until the subject is dead. Period. Well, answer the last, to use the debit card first, but to your point, it's very expensive, and a debit card is not a credit card. It means he has money in the bank. So why and how is being looked at right now? And I think that's hundreds of more, thousands of more leads are being looked at right now, because we haven't answered all the questions. We haven't gotten into the why. Okay, we know the individual was also into cyber gaming in that regard, and group gaming in that regard. So we've got a lot of questions are out there. We're seeking answers, but we've got an obligation. We'll continue to update you when we find something out. The Port Patrol agents, the Port TAC agents who were in the building didn't line up. They're part of the 19 that I talked about, and the entry team, ultimately the entry team that went in. But I can tell you that they were told, just as like as any other officer was told, and others, even command staff that came on board, is that the incident commander at the time was believed that in fact it was a barricaded subject, that we had time, there was no kids at risk. I wish he was, because then there's no question. And I'll say this right now, but and every time we have one of these, there's copycats, okay? And we need the public, just like we did back in 2018. It was a public, okay, that came forward that we got 2 people that are about to shoot up a school or plan to shoot a school. It's imperative on the public, when you get something, just because it sounds like he's a nut, he may be a nut, but just because it sounds like, well, it's possible to do, he may be intended to do, as I've read the timeline based upon the chats that he had. So, we need everyone, when we have a threat to life like that take it seriously and report it. Because ultimately, this is tragic. What do you tell the parents of 19 kids, or the families of two teachers? Yeah. Or the pay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For tactical gear, by 12:15, you had at least 15 officers and shields on scene.
Yeah.
Yet you did not reach the door until 12:15.
Hey, like I said it before, is that, well, first of all, when it comes to an active shooter, you don't have to wait on tactical gear. Plain and simple, you've got an obligation. What I know now, okay, absolutely, it was an active shooter. because you can transition. Keep in mind, in the doctrine, okay, of active shooters, you can transition from an alert, from an active shooter situation to a barricaded subject or a barricaded with hostage subject. But if shooting continues, and you have any reason to believe that there's individuals alive in there, you've got an obligation to move back to an active shooter posture, and that means everybody at the door.
Are you saying those children were no longer at risk when he barricaded himself?
Todavía te da un triciclo con correla. No es lo que más puede. En la base. Mira, ahí te da correla.
Well, Uvalde has a part-time SWAT team, number one. The ISD's got, they've limited officers. I think what is it? What do you got, 6? They got 6, yeah. The Consolidated Independent School District has 6 officers, and they didn't have one posted at that location. And someone said, hey, what do you tell the parents? I mean, bottom line is that, or someone talked about, said, when there's kids in the room, why wasn't there an entry? Because it was believed, like I said at the time, that the subject was stationary, barricaded, there was no risk to other children. Again, on retrospect, from where I'm sitting right now, clearly there was kids in the room. Clearly, okay, they're at risk. And oh, by the way, even when you go back to shooting, there may be kids that are injured, okay, they may have been shot but injured, and it's important for life-saving purposes to immediately get there and render aid.
Right in the blue.
He was not on campus.
Why?
Well, again, we'll have all those answers down the road. Okay.
Dylan.
Moi, je t'entends bien. Merci beaucoup de me répondre. C'est certain que je l'ai bien compris.
Well, first I want to say that the Consolidated Independent School District officers were there early. There was 4 of them, and they immediately began evacuating the school and did that throughout the process. So keep in mind, so that was going on. That's what do I say to the parents? I don't have anything to say to the parents other than what had happened. We're not here to defend what happened. We're here to report the facts so they have the facts. Yeah. Hey, bottom line, it's all. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, I don't have any information on that. Oh, one second though. However, we did review what PBS officers arrived on the scene, what they did, and looked at those instances. The blue. Yes.
Oui, on en sait beaucoup plus. Julie, on va parler très très fort parce que naturellement les questions sont adressées à ce début de sérieux de la sécurité publique, la question du menace. Et on ne peut répondre à toutes les questions que les adressées. Vous demandez des précisions.
If I thought it would help out, I'd call it. But let me say this. Hey, let me say this. When you go back to the timeline, again, I want to go back and I'm not defending anything, but you go back to the timeline, there was a barrage, hundreds of rounds were pumped in 4 minutes, okay, in those 2 classrooms. Then anything else, any firing afterwards was sporadic and it was at the door. So the belief is that there may not be anybody living anymore, and that the subject is now trying to keep law enforcement at bay or entice them to come in. Suicide by contact. I understand that. I reported that. Yeah.
Jusqu'à 16 policiers à l'intérieur, alors que le jeune était barricadé dans une salle de classe, la salle 111 comme on l'a appelé. Et à aucun moment, ils ont pris sur cette salle de classe-là. Et c'est l'élément central de ce que l'officier de Croft
Well, I might answer the first one, but the why on the second one I don't have. The first one, that each door can lock from the inside, and both doors were locked, okay, from the inside. So the subject, when he went in, he locked the door. He came out one time into the hallway, went back in and locked the door, because at the time that the officers went in, both doors were locked. They got a key from the janitor and used it. I don't have that answer. We're looking at it right now.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Les enfants le demandaient, je disais. On entendait l'officier McGrath faire des bons et être tout le temps. Et lui, il a dit lui-même d'ailleurs, c'est plus facile de lire ces commentaires-là que de les entendre. Si vous les entendiez, ça vous arrache. Donc, à ce moment-ci, il reste encore un certain nombre de l'élément central qui est dans
Forget how I'm doing. What's up, Eric? Forget about me. I'm here. Or officers and stuff like that. We take an oath to uphold the law and protect people. And anytime something's tragic like that, we want to know why it happened and if we can do better next time. It's the bottom line. We call it like it is. It's tragic. Quite frankly, I mean, there shouldn't be anybody. Ideally, we could identify this guy as a suspect and address it before he even thought about attacking, on the 24th.
Director. Go ahead.
There's a lot of ammunition, a lot of rounds. Are there other people that you're looking at to arrest that aided him?
And we're looking at other people. Absolutely. Anybody who's been in contact, we're looking at anything. The Links Association, may have known something, and will continue, and may have been involved in some chat room gaming along with them. So there's nobody that we're not going to talk to and look at. And it's certainly, I can assure you that this district attorney is very proactive and very concerned about this, and that any evidence that we bring to her that someone was an accomplice or an enabler or didn't do what they should have done, it's in violation of law and it meets the public account standards. I have no doubt that she'll take care of business like she did back in 2018 when we had 2 juveniles plot a capital murder at the school.
We're going to find it.
Well, 911 calls at 12:10, 12:13,
Yes.
12:16. Shooter wasn't killed until 12:50. Any of those 911 callers survived?
Yes. I can't tell you that with certainty, but more than one survived.
How many children got
I'm sorry, what? Yes, the windows I'll go backwards. And right over here, I'll move over here.
Something shot into these windows right here and approaching the door. Right? So the children were vulnerable all the time going through. We don't have any recording of any of the children maybe injured but not dead when you shot in a particular area. Right? As to the answer in terms of someone could have shot opposite in that regard, I don't have the answer to that, quite frankly. Right? We're looking at a number of different things in terms of ballistics and things like that, but you can do. Keep in mind, we've got children, okay, in here. We've got children. Oh, geez, yeah. Okay. Right. We're looking at this from a tactical standpoint and everything in terms of looking backwards, okay? And certainly one of the things is, what was the access in 111 and 112 in that regard? And also, there's other access points as well.
Hold on.
Let me say one thing. One thing I didn't point out, okay, is that when we've got him going into these rooms, right here is the Jack and Jill restroom between. So not unlike Santa Fe, the classrooms are separated, but they're already connected. So you can move back and forth between those 2 classrooms. Yes, sir.
Was the incident commander receiving the information coming via the 911 call? And if so, why not? And if so, speak to the level of investigation that you're putting into that area.
Yeah, that question will be answered, but I don't have I'm not going to share the information we have right now. Because I don't have the detailed interview right now.
Go ahead, sir. Right there. Yeah,
Well, it was a barricade situation. Then any police officers go in and get their own kids while the parents were outside.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes, please.
How many children called 911 and you know for a fact if any of those children died?
I know for 2 for certain did, and those 2 did not die.
Why was that box open door still cracked open even after the incident was occurring with shots being fired in the air?
Bottom line is, we reported what happened. That back door was propped open. It wasn't supposed to be propped open. It was supposed to be locked. And certainly the teacher that went back for her cell phone, it propped it open again. So that was an access point that the subject used.
Go ahead, Blue. Go ahead. Hold on.
You have said in hindsight mistakes were made, and Democratic Congressman is now calling for the FBI to investigate the response here.
Yeah.
Is going to be held accountable.
Well, first of all, we welcome the FBI. There's a reason why there's the FBI special agent in charge behind me right now. They play a vital role. And again, this is about finding facts and reporting facts as quick as we can. It's not about trying to defend, or it's not about trying to assess or even be hypercritical. It's about the facts and sharing whatever we learn on the facts as quick as we can, to be as transparent as we can. Okay, the media, but more importantly, the parents, and the public, the citizens of Uvalde.
Okay, go ahead, Blue. Go ahead. Hold on, sir. Hold on.
The chief of police, the Consolidated Independent School District, is the incident commander. It's his school. He's the chief of police. Okay. And again, I'm not going to discuss disciplinary, but there's an ongoing criminal investigation.
Is that teacher being investigated and working with the
I'm not going to get into that.
Matt, go ahead. Yeah, man.
The chief of police of Consolidated Independent School District, he was convinced, and again, I want to go back and say, he was convinced at the time that there was no more threat to the children, and that the subject was barricaded, and that they had time to organize with the proper equipment to go in. The subject already had hit 3 officers, and hit 2 officers, and I didn't answer the final question. A third border patrol agent was grazed as well, but no police officer was seriously injured. Yes, they did. He shot, and I went through the timeline before where he continued to shoot periodically, sporadically. The last, I think I already gave you the timeline. I'm sure I went through it, but the last time that the shot right before the entry, okay, was he shot at 12:21. So
At the officers or at the children?
no, not the children. We don't know yet. We believe it was at the door is what he fired at.
Go ahead. Right there. Pass. Hold on.
Hey, we know that beginning when the Vortex agents arrived, they had 3 ballistic shields.
Yeah, what? Last question. Right here, the booster. Right here. Yeah, go ahead. Hold on.
I don't know. No, that's fine. Yeah, let's answer the question.
What do you think should have been the
Well, I already said that. I want to say, first of all, hey, Texas embraces and teaches, okay, the active shooter doctrine. The active shooter doctrine, as long as there's kids, as long as there's someone's firing, you go to the gun, you find them, you neutralize them, period. And there's only, there's some nuances with transition to a barricaded subject, also transitioning to a hostage situation. And of course, the decision at the scene was that this is still a barricaded subject that did not go back to an active shooter situation.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, because I'm here to address the latest timeline and facts that we know. You're certainly welcome to reach out to them. Yeah. I defer to you want to get the question?
Okay, hold on.
How many children were pulled out?
Hold on, sir. Hold on.
Sir, you have been on the scene for several days. Two things. One is actually your role in this investigation. And you did all this, given that the FBI goes through lengthy efforts to study how to secure situations like this. Do you think this is something that requires an independent investigation, whether federally, you guys, or someone else?
Thank you for the question. So my name is Oliver Rich. I'm the special agent in charge of the San Antonio division. First, I want to say I understand there are a lot of questions and there's a lot of frustration in the public, and our heart goes out to the families and the victims of this tragedy. I will say our role here remains the same. We are here to assist in this investigation, to provide the support to the community to the best of our ability. We've had 200 people here for over 4 days. We have people working all across the country to support this community and to support this investigation. We are continuing in that vein. We have victim specialists here working with people in the community, and we will continue to do that. If the facts bear out that there is a federal nexus, then the FBI will conduct an appropriate investigation at that time. But for now, we continue in this to support the Texas.
How many more questions?
Two more questions.
Okay. Yes.
Uvalde Police Department, Uvalde Police Department hosted in February 2020, and they familiarized themselves with the school and did the training to do just what they were supposed to do. How come they were not in lead, or their commanding officer was not in lead when they were familiarized with this training? And they should have done what they were posting on Facebook they were doing. Who dropped the ball?
Yeah, I don't have the answer to that question.
Last question. Larry the Grayson.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
President Biden will be here on Sunday. Your thoughts on that? Do you have a message to the president?
Yeah, welcome here. Welcome to Texas. And this community has been hit hard. And I think it's noble that the president's going to be here to recognize the pain and suffering that this community is going through. And I think that's what leadership is. That's why Governor Abbott's here. That's why the leaders go to where the problem is. And right now, the problem's in Uvalde, Texas.
En español. Spanish.
You leave the map up?
Right. I know. Well, so in 2020, they took the training, right? They were. No, en la foto, me están tomando la foto. Al poste le están tomando foto.
I do. I just want to make sure I can hear Peter. We're going to go over there.
Man, listen, you guys, this is wild. This is extremely wild. Listen, shout out to everybody in the chat. This was kind of a last minute stream, but I definitely wanted to cover this. I had to rush home to do this because I was listening to all the BS that was being spewed during this conference, and I had to say something, you guys. I absolutely had to say something. First, before I dive into that, you guys, I want to shout out everybody in the chat. Listen, please have your questions ready. Please formulate your questions and drop them in the chat. When I say drop them in the chat, I am going to comb through and answer every question to the best of my ability. But I know you guys have a lot of questions. They did not do a good job covering this conference at all. To be completely honest with you, the first thing that should have came out their mouth was we failed. We absolutely failed. We failed this. We failed the city. We failed the state. We failed this nation. We failed these children, and we failed the teachers who were there protecting those kids. They did a better job. This is extremely disgraceful. It's embarrassing. And you know, I honestly don't know what else to say. They absolutely failed, 100% failed. I am at a loss of words, you guys. You know, I've taken this training. I know the training he's referring to. And, you know, it's one of those type of trainings where you go in at risk of getting killed in order to save those who are in danger. And so hearing and seeing what they did, hearing all the facts now, you guys know I prefer to wait for the facts to come out before I start running my mouth. And, you know, my motto is, you know, it's not about being right, it's about being accurate. And we're about to be real accurate right now. This was a disgrace. I'm going to explain to you guys the training, how the training works. And he quoted it. You know, he quoted. He said, "Listen, we go in there and we shoot the suspect until he's dead. He's no longer alive." Absolutely right. That's how the training goes. You go in. They had the equipment necessary. They had the shields. There was no excuse. There was absolutely no excuse, and it was sad to hear that all these kids were calling the police. They knew that those. I'm gonna tell you what happened. I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened. The reason why they switched their response to a barricade suspect instead of an active shooter, because they assumed all the kids were already dead, when in fact they were calling 911 still. You know, the fact that this is ridiculous. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is so ridiculous. I can't believe it. I absolutely cannot believe it. I want to play it back to when he was discussing the amount of ammunition that the suspect had. This kid, you know, was as if he was preparing for war, you know, as if he was preparing for war. I want to take it back and really go over that information. I think it's important for us to know. Before we do that, though, we're going to cover this 911 call. We're going to cover this 911 call real quick. I want you guys to go through this timeline with me. I think it's very imperative that we take a look at this. Let me see. Give me 1 second, you guys. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. All right, let's take a look at this 911 call. I like how they break it down into who called the classroom. This was coming from classroom 112 at 12:03. And the student called in. The call lasted 1 minute and 23 seconds. She identified herself and her location in a whisper. Listen, the kid did exactly what he or she was supposed to do. You know, we train children to how to call. The bravery of the kids in the classroom who called 911 in the middle of a chaotic situation like that. The bravery of these kids. I mean, I can't stress it enough. You know, the entire department failed. They absolutely failed, you guys. The call lasted 1 minute and 23 seconds. Let me tell you what happens, you know, to officers when we get a call about someone shooting I wouldn't be able to get there fast enough. I would have drove my damn car through the building to get in. You know, this is the type of officers who do their job and know how to do their job are getting into that classroom. They're getting into that building. Whether we have to use our vehicle or whatever, we're absolutely getting in. And so all the excuses, is beyond me. Shout out to you. Shout out to you, Ann. You're absolutely right. What a terrible assumption. And that's why he couldn't answer the question. That's why he could not answer the question. Good question. Blick Panther, he says, my question is, why do police always deflect responsibility? Because nobody likes accountability. It hurts. It hurts. You know, policing, this profession has gotten away far too long with escaping accountability. This country coddles police officers. They coddle the profession so much that officers now are accustomed to having excuses because they know that the citizens are going to give them that excuse or allow them to have that excuse of the job is dangerous, split-second decisions. You know, that's what they always fall on. You know, there is no excuses. This is the type of profession where you can't afford to fail. You know, you can't. Your success rate needs to be 99%. You know, any room of error is detrimental to yourself, and then also to the citizens. You can't afford. This is a thinking job. Critical thinking is an absolute must, and that is the problem. That's the problem because we make so many excuses. We hire people in this profession, and the standards are so low, right? We make so many concessions for people who are not qualified to do this job. People who are in leadership positions that are not qualified to be leaders. And that's the problem. And that's all throughout this country, you know, within government. It's ridiculous. Our best and our brightest need to be in these positions that require surgical precision. You know, so that's a great question. You know, let me see. Shout out to you, Lewis. You're absolutely right. You know, and me and Lewis, you know, we talked about this. This is a part of the job. You know, this is part of the job. Are you willing to lay down your life for the life of another person, a stranger? And if you can't do that, don't put the badge on. That's how I was taught. That's how I was taught. This is the standard that that society is asking us to be. We can talk about the pay, we can talk about the treatment, we can talk about all that you might not get as an officer, you know, but that's the reality. That's the reality. Shout out to Gail. Yes, if you have a question so I can see it, you guys put Q in front of your question. That way I can get to it. Let me start with Matt. He said, armed security and metal detectors in schools, armed teachers, or a mixture of everything. What do you think, Nathan? Great question. Honestly, I believe that you need a little bit of everything. And I think it's really determined based on the demographic of the school, what's going on near that school. Not every school requires these things. But I think because of everything being so unpredictable at this point, you need everything. Armed security is absolutely necessary. Metal detectors, absolutely necessary. Armed teachers, I think, is discretionary. There are some schools up north. I know for a fact in Chicago, I have a cousin who is a teacher. I mean, not a teacher, a principal. And she told me that they get guns off of kids all the time. They have metal detectors. They have police officers in the school, a lot of them. Because there's just a lot of violence in the school. Unfortunately, these inner city schools, especially in Chicago, some of them have a lot of problems there, right? So that needs to be addressed. I know that there are some teachers on college campuses here in Georgia. There was a law that was being looked at in reference to giving professors the opportunity to carry on school campus. That's a thing. So I believe the training though, as a kid, we used to have, of course, we have tornado drills, fire drills. There needs to be drills. What's missing from these schools is secure locking mechanisms, right? Access to these schools. There needs to be a better security system in place for these doors. Doors should not be allowed to be left open. And according to the director, he said, hey, a teacher had left the school, propped the door open. That seems very suspicious, right? Out of all days, this is the day that a door is propped open for a shooter to enter and then wreak havoc. You guys, this screams very suspicious to me, to be honest. And so I would say access points, those need to be addressed. How they go about locking those doors, doors being automatically locked on the inside when class is in session. So that's my thing. When I thought about this entire situation, I said, how come teachers don't lock doors while they're inside the classroom, and then only unlock when they're transitioning? So to me, this is very suspicious, to be honest. I don't like the answers he was giving. I think that he was being very disingenuous on a lot of his responses, and that this is leaning towards some form of a cover-up. To be completely honest, it's giving me cover-up vibes. And so just simply because I know how these things are supposed to work, I've had the training, and I'm well aware of how the response should have been. They had more than enough officers to address the problem. Do you think the response would have been different in an inner city school or community compared to rural community? Honestly, no. I think that I would say yes and no. The reason why I say no is because they had the officers present. They had the equipment. They had more than enough bodies. They had the weapons to challenge the suspect. They made an assumption, is what they're saying, based on this press conference. They made an assumption that the kids were already dead, and there was no rush to go in there. Listen, when there's an intruder on the campus and on the school grounds, barricaded with kids, and they know for a fact that kids are present, there is absolutely no waiting. There's absolutely no waiting whatsoever. You absolutely go in, you assess the situation. Hey, he's barricaded in. There are kids still alive inside the room. Now, what's the issue? The issue that you're looking at and concerned with, though, is you don't want to force entry or use certain breaching tools that would end up damaging and hurting the kids that are in. It's an active, what you would call, hostage situation at that point. But if the shooter is actively killing them, it doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. You go in and you save who can be saved. You don't wait till they're all dead and then you make entry. So those are the two issues, right? The two issues are: do we wait? Do we stand by? Is this a negotiation situation? Then negotiate. Then you have to negotiate. But when they're actively killing, then it doesn't matter. There's nothing to talk about. You go in there and you eliminate the threat by any means necessary. This is one of those situations as an officer, you say, yeah, I do have to breach the door. There's 10 kids in there. Maybe 2 might get injured. 1 might die from this breach, but I'll be saving at least 8. That's a calculated risk that you have to make. But I promise you this, they have the tools necessary to get in. Absolutely. This is why I can absolutely guarantee you this is a cover-up. So in reference to inner cities, what makes a difference, though, the people's advocate, which is a good question that you asked, is whether or not the training, the department has the training necessary. They have the amount of officers needed to go in and address the threat, and they have the actual tools to do it. If they have those things, even if I had my handgun, I've always carried a rifle with me on duty. I mean, even a shotgun. You have a guy with a shotgun, you blow the lock. You can absolutely blow the lock on the door with a shotgun, you guys. Been doing this job for 13 years. There's a way to get into a door. He could not have barricaded the door enough that would have kept me out of it with a team of officers. Absolutely not. And so I wonder if there was any window entry. I did look at the map that they actually provided, but I haven't had a chance to really dissect it enough. I'd have to wait to get the FBI's report. They'll have more of a detailed report. But you have window access. I would have driven the car through there or something. We would have got in. I promise you, would have got in. Absolutely would have got in. That's what the shotgun is for. Would have used a shotgun and blew the lock. So I think a lot of it comes down to the training, equipment, amount of officers. But at this point, they had so much time on their hands. No, absolutely no excuse. Great question, by the way. Let me see. Let me go through. You guys, if you have a question, please put Q in front of your question so that I know I'm going to scroll through and get these questions out the way. Any question, you guys, please ask them. We'll be taking questions. So Stay Tuned Review says, if schools take measures to prevent mass shooters from entering the school, wouldn't the shooters just decide to commit their acts outside of the school? I mean, yeah, I think to your point, what is the main objective is to protect the kids and in a safe environment. The environment needs to be secure. It needs to be safe as much as possible. You'll never be able to prevent an active shooter at all. And on average in this country, we have approximately 600 active shooters a year. We only hear about some of these, right? We hear about, there's a lot more that happen, you guys. We only hear about some of the most egregious ones, but, we have 4, 5, 7 people being killed at once or shot at once. And a mass shooting doesn't necessarily mean you have to die from the shooting. It just means that 4 more people have been shot and killed. Right. So we have a lot of mass shootings in this country, again, over 600, where you might have 10 people shot, but 3 people killed or something along that lines. Listen, within the last 2 months alone, we've had the one in Milwaukee, the one in Sacramento, California. We have the one at the church. And we had, of course, the Buffalo, New York shooter. We have this one here, so there's a lot. There's absolutely a lot. Even if one of the things that happen when you have an emergency situation near a school, the school goes on lockdown in fear that maybe the suspect can gain access to the school and then use that school and the students in the school as hostages. So there's protocol for situations like this. When schools are being let out, yeah, to be honest, an active shooter can lie in wait in front of the school and then shoot up school buses as they drive by. Again, there's no way to 100% protect people from a mass shooter or an active shooter. But what we are saying is that the areas that should be secured, where no one should be allowed to enter, they need to be doing that. They need to be serving their purpose properly. Where there are police present, where there are police that are actively patrolling, then there are certain things that are unacceptable from happening. None of those officers died. Meaning to me, they didn't try hard enough, right? If you're an officer and you're on scene in that scene in Texas and you did not die, then you failed to do your job. You failed. When the director said that there were grazing wounds from the officers, listen, you guys, I'm a police advocate. I'm also an advocate for the people, for this country, right? There was absolutely no excuse. No excuse. Those officers were breathing. They should have been at the door. They should have been at his neck with bullets, period. There's no excuse. There's no justification for it. Absolutely not. Great question. Great question. Please put a Q in front of your questions, you guys. That way I can see it scrolling through. Let me scroll down. P Nicole, and you guys listen. Also, if you're entering in, please hit the like button. You guys know how that goes. It helps with the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. This is going to be some good information we're going to be talking about. Please hit the like button. This is a great question from P Nicole. She says, was the police told to wait? Yes, they were told to wait. The police were told to wait. Why were they told to wait? They assumed that the kids were already killed. Because here's the logic, and this is how I know that the director is full of shit, because he made a statement and said, well, it went from active shooter to a barricade situation. And we just thought that, it was going to be a suicide by cop. This guy is a complete imbecile. His statement doesn't make any sense and it's contradictory because that there's a school full of children and the police have gotten to a shootout with him, and he goes into the classroom and he barricades himself in, and you have kids that are calling and complaining that they hear the gunshots. The police are told to wait. I believe that they're under the impression that all the kids were killed. They should have forced entry and did what was necessary. They had more than enough people. The notes that I took from that situation, they had at least 19 at 12 p.m. They had at least 19 officers inside the building. At 12 p.m. was the second caller. There were approximately 6, 7, 8, 9. There were approximately 9 911 calls from the children inside the room. They had 12 officers inside. They were in a shootout with him. Either they were scared, which I believe majority of them were more than likely scared. You can't tell me 12 officers. I would have ignored that order, risk being fired. I would have went in there and took his ass out. Absolutely took him out. You guys, listen, I'm going to keep it real with you. Real officers would have forced their way in. There's no way any officer, none that I know, would have sat there and watched those kids get shot and killed. Not at all. Great question. Throw a Q in front of your question, you guys. Let me scroll through. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss anything. Hold on, I'm scrolling through, you guys. Give me 1 second. I feel like there was nothing learned from Sandy Hook, to be honest. There was absolutely nothing learned from the Sandy Hook shooting, to be completely honest, you guys. I'm not one. I'm big on not repeating mistakes, and this is disgraceful. Sincerely, Gabby says, is it true that his mother worked at the school? Was that her classroom or a random classroom? Honestly, that is a good question. I do not know. And I don't know I'm not sure about his mother or details about that because he was living with his grandmother. So that's weird within itself. To be honest, I don't know that. I'm going to save this question, though. I'm going to do some research on it and come back to it. Good question. I'm not sure, though. If that is the case, that would probably describe a motive. If that is the case, that would actually put a motive together, because then I would wonder, what was his relationship like with his mother, right? Why was he staying with the grandmother? Why did he shoot his grandmother? So that would bring into context a lot that's going on, right? There's a lot that could be said about that. I'd just be speculating, but where I would take it is, it could have been a domestic issue between him and his mom. He might feel that the mother loves the school kids more than he loves him, right? Gives them more attention. He's already unstable, things like this. That is a mindset that people do have who are unstable, right? Throw your questions up, you guys. That was a great question, by the way. I will look into that. Sincerely, Gabby. Randy, shout out to you, Randy. Said, question, although you mentioned breach training is implemented, what is the estimate duration of that training? Should it be longer? Also sign up as a Blue Phoenix volunteer. Yes, please sign up. And, you guys, listen, I have a nonprofit called the Blue Phoenix Initiative. Randy, I actually do need some help. It's so funny. I have so much going on working the nonprofit, doing YouTube, and also working as an expert witness for criminal cases. I have some things coming up, and so I absolutely need help. So anyone who's interested, want to volunteer, nothing difficult, you guys, just kind of helping, reaching out to different organizations, having the dialogue, having the conversation, bringing truth, bringing real police reform initiatives, not the BS that these politicians are talking about, real stuff that's needed. Look like we froze a little bit. Real police reform that's needed, that will work. The ones that they are avoiding and not wanting to talk about. If you guys see my previous video, Biden signed an executive order in reference to documenting police misconduct, which is very important, you guys. But these things need to be done on a state level. I can tell you exactly what needs to happen. But to Randy, to your point, breach training. The thing about breach training is normally, you guys, this stuff is done by SWAT members, special operation members. You guys, I was in special ops at my department, my first department. So I got a lot of tactical training. And so to be completely honest with you, the SWAT team is the one that has the equipment needed to breach. But officers in some departments have breaching tools. After Sandy Hook, you guys, they gave us breaching tools to carry in our cars. So I carried tools necessary to break chains, break locks, pry open doors. We have tools needed to not have to wait for SWAT. You know, we have guns. We have the training, right? We have ballistic shields. The shields that I carry was enough to stop rifle rounds. It was enough to get you just close enough to put a shot in, you know, a suspect's head, you guys. So again, every department is not created equal. There are some departments that don't have the funding. But again, when we talk about this is our new way of living, right? We have these crazy people who show up and commit these offenses. Every department needs to be equipped accordingly. Listen, the biggest problem is the departments keep getting sued all the time because they have incompetent leadership, incompetent officers that they can't keep enough money to buy the tools needed to do these jobs properly. You know, so one would even argue if we start actually putting real reform, police reform policies, we could save the money instead of paying out all this money on poor police practices, right? So again, there's so much that needs to be done. There's no excuse why these schools weren't secured properly. There's no excuse why the officers did not go in and eliminate the threat immediately. They had more than enough time. They had the equipment, they had the resources. So the training is one thing. If you can't train all the officers, you train them on how to use the breach tools. Not all breach tools are explosives related, but they will be strong enough to pry open doors, right? Break the chains, because we're not talking about a suspect who had multiple days to barricade a school, reinforce it with things that would require us to use explosive to get in, right? Because by the time that 911 call comes out and things happen, officers are there on scene to be able to get access. Again, we had a case where an officer drove his car through the door to get into the school. So listen, there's ways to get in. I'm doing whatever's necessary, and I'm taking a shotgun to the door lock. We're going in and we're lighting them up. It just is what it is. And so no excuse. Randy, great question. If you want to help and volunteer, definitely reach out to me by email. I would love and definitely need the help, to be honest. Great question though. Thank you so much, you guys. Listen, if you're coming in, listen, I'm taking questions. You guys, if you're not familiar with my channel, I'm a 13-year law enforcement veteran. I have a plethora of experience. I will give you the insight, the raw insight on what's going on. A lot of deflecting on this conference. I'll give you the truth, tell you what should have happened, how we normally do this thing, and I will give you the insight. So let's talk about it. Chelsea Rand says, is it confirmed he was a trans? No, it hasn't been confirmed yet. I did see his social media posts. I have some photos of him before they took it down. It looked like he was in I won't say it looked like he was in some dresses and some he was cross-dressing from what I know. I don't know what his sexual orientation is. Great question though. Shout out to Gail. Shout out to you, Gail. Thank you so much for putting this up. You guys put a Q in the chat. I'm scrolling through, taking questions. Please, if you're coming in, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. This is information we want people to get and get access to. If you haven't as well, please subscribe. If you're new to this channel, you guys have a lot of great content. Please check it out. Let's see. Let me scroll through, see what the next question is. Yes, one of the sheriff's children have passed away. They were sheriff's officers who actually had kids who were attending the school and attending that class. Question from Kawan. Let's see. Says, do you think the teacher who propped the door open will be charged, and if so, with what? No, she can't be charged because you'd have to be able to prove that she was an accomplice. If they can prove she was an accomplice, absolutely she'll be charged. Um, she'll be fired, right? But is that good enough, right? That's definitely not going to be good enough for the people. But to your point, if they can confirm that she was an accomplice, then yeah, she will absolutely be charged accordingly. They're going to look into that. Coincidental, it was too many coincidences in this case. It was too convenient for the shooter to get in and get access. They're going to look at all that. Exactly. Damn the rules of engagement. Yeah, you go and you take the threat out. That's how we were trained. Um, I'm gonna pull up a map as well. I have a small little map that he brought up on the screen. We're going to talk about that and in a second. Could the officers who failed to enter the school in a timely manner, or the leadership that are ordered them to stand down, be brought up on criminal charges? Yes, yes, they can. I'll tell you why. Because here's how it works in the department I came from. If we are allowed to disobey an order if it's unlawful. The problem that I have is that there were 19 officers who were on scene. Those officers who followed him in, they followed directly behind him, right? They were in the hallway, they were in the school. They were afraid to advance forward. They allowed him to set up in there and do what he did. You know, we have to get the information from those officers in the hallway. They followed instructions, so they claim. I think there's a lot of information that's still not being released, that would honestly help bring some more insight into this situation. I don't have a direct answer for that because we would need to know where they're getting their intel from. Again, it's hard to believe you had 911 calls actively saying that he's shooting people, or kids are dead. I mean, the person on the phone is still alive, and the child is telling you that there are kids around you that are dying. That right there lets you know that, one, you need to not only go in there to eliminate the threat, you need to go in there to render aid. So there was a lot of contradictory statements that he made. Yes, there's a possibility that people can be charged. It's going to start from the highest place and then work its way down. I believe that they could look at the officers and say, how were you trained? And did this go against your training? Did you know that he was actively killing people inside? And if they can confirm that, verify that, I can see it being possible that the officers could be charged for not responding. That's like an officer sitting in his car and across the street watching someone have a shootout, or people getting killed, and then you don't do nothing. You're obligated to do something. So that'll be interesting when that comes out. I think it's a great question. I think that'll definitely be interesting to see. You guys, please hit the like button if you have not hit the like button yet. We have 280 people watching. The like button, obviously, it does help with the algorithm. So let me see more questions, you guys. Put your questions up. Shout out to you, Lucky. She said, did you see the school where teachers and all the staff carry guns? No, I'm not familiar with that. If you have that location, pull it up. It'll definitely be a good discussion for a future stream. But I'm not familiar with that school. Let's see. Stay tuned says, could the officers who failed to enter the school in a time manner? Okay, I answered that one. Yes, they watched him go into the school. They had a direct shootout with him prior to him going into the school. They were unable to strike him. You guys, he had, from my understanding, I don't think he had any body armor on. So, I don't know. I'm really curious to really, as this whole thing unfolds. Shout out to you, Rena. Bolden says, you are on point. Thank you for educating me on some of these issues. Thank you so much for this super chat. I really, really appreciate it. Also, shout out to Kevin. He said, I cannot and will not abide by anything these law enforcement officials say. The officers failed in every aspect of this active shooter incident. Yes, they did fail. They absolutely failed, you guys. This is so disheartening. It's so disappointing. I really don't know what to say about it. Shout out to you, Kevin. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate that. Let me go through. I'm missing some stuff here. Shout out to the big homie Chicago Rilla. Thank you so much. He said hashtag the Blue Phoenix Initiative, you guys. That is the name of my nonprofit. We are doing great things here, uniting law enforcement in the communities that they serve, and then also assisting these injured police officers, you guys. My goal is to repair this relationship that law enforcement has with the country. As you guys can see, it's a lot of work, right? When officers come out here and they fail this bad, we have a department that is not being completely genuine with their response. This is a problem. So shout out to you, Chicago. I appreciate that shout out. Pina Cole, thank you so much for this super chat. Said exactly. I sense BS. Thank you for this live. Yeah, there's a lot of BS, you guys. A lot of BS. I think that the starting of the conversation should have been like, you guys, we failed you. I'm sorry. We did not act properly on the intel that was given. You have a shooter that you just got into a shootout with who goes into a school, and again, it's one of those things, you guys, when you're actually in a shootout, you want to keep that shooter's attention as much as possible. Go in from the back end, go in from a different entry of the school, pincer him in, corner him. I just don't understand why you had 19, what was it? Was it 12 officers in the hallway? What number did I write down? I don't get it. There was 19 officers on the same location. They should have, you needed 3 guns in the hallway, take another 3-4 officers from a different entryway. You go in from all entries, communicate that well, corner them in, shoot them. He should have been killed before he had an opportunity to take that many lives. I can't even go over in my head how this happened. I just can't, which is why I know that they're lying. Either they are grossly just untrained, or they're lying about a lot. Because this doesn't make any sense at all. That means, tell me, not out of all 12, 19 of those officers, none of them had any type of leadership experience to make a common sense decision that we need to go in from different entry points, and confront the shooter. Come on. I don't know. I'm not sure about this. I'm really curious to find out the rest about this, Carmen. The video where his mother said, well, he knows why he did it. If you find that video, can you let me know? I definitely want to pull that up and take a look at that. Diamond says, why did they have contradicting statements concerning campus police officers confronting shooter? Then they said he didn't. Because they're lying. Diamond, they're lying, and they don't want to look bad. And the problem is, you had some people saying that they were off-duty officers who went in to go save their own kids. They admitted to that, and then the director goes up there and says he don't know nothing about that. That's embarrassing. I think a lot of truth will come out when they release these cameras. Hopefully, the FBI release the cameras, or the media release the cameras in the school. If they do have school cameras, and show exactly who went in, and those who went in to get their kids, those officers, they should be fired and charged criminally, in my opinion. Kevin shrugs. Wasn't previous to Sandy Hook's police were told to wait until SWAT arrived? Yes, Kevin, absolutely. You guys, the policy prior to Sandy Hook was that you waited for the SWAT team to arrive because they were trained. They had the equipment and they had the ballistic shields. They were more qualified to address it. The problem with that, by waiting, those deaths occurred. So the active shooter training that I have went through, the one that's actively being taught, it teaches us how to circumvent around those things that you might not have, and to use whatever tool necessary to go in and confront the shooter. The problem with this, you guys, he was challenged before he made it into the school. Before he made it into the school, he was challenged. There's no excuse for this. Absolutely no excuse. And I'll tell you, the only justification, officers should have died. Right? The only justifiable reason why this happened was there were dead officers. And I'm telling you this, right? Those officers should have been dead. That would have been the only justifiable response to why he lived as long as he did, and was able to carry out the threat. Those officers did not lie, right? They didn't live. And was the Sandy Hook part of the change to police force to go in ASAP? Yep, absolutely correct. Yep, absolutely, Kevin. Great question. You're absolutely correct. That's when they started giving us the tools needed, everyday patrolling officers, the tools needed to address these issues. Yeah, the government's coming for the guns. They want the guns. Now, to be honest, you guys, I don't. I believe in the Second Amendment. I don't have any issues with it. I believe all citizens should be able to constitutional carry. That is the Second Amendment. I don't think states should have a right to prevent people from having guns, unless, of course, they're felons and, of course, the mental health issues and things of that nature. But overall, I don't think law-abiding citizens should have issues. I do see an issue with high-powered weapons, though. I think the citizens should not have access to that. I know people argue differently. And, I know we're looking at this situation. He had a lot of ammunition. You guys, whether or not he had access to a high-powered gun or a handgun, he could have still carried out the same threat, right? So that's why people don't like the argument that ban assault rifles, because at the end of the day, it's handguns that kill more people than assault rifles. And for obvious reasons. So Jay, shout out to you. Shout out to the members as well. She said, can legal charges be brought against the officers that did not respond? Possibly. Depends on what they knew. Depends based on their training. They had the training, the active shooter training, and they did not do what they need to do. They could say they acted on orders. And they have to investigate all that. It does depend. I think it's possible if they violated their oath in the process. Yeah, absolutely. Sneakerhead Nay says, do you believe the door was propped open that the gunman entered, or that was something they used to cover themselves? Two things. I think that's a great question. If the door was propped open, then you can justify why he was able to get in, instead of holding the school accountable for not having a secure locking system in place, right? So I think, that would be a reason to justify, because the school doesn't want to be sued. The city or county, I don't know what type of municipality that is, but they don't want to be sued. So they have to be able to justify and say the door was left open by a teacher. Because people are going to ask, how come the doors aren't secured? What type of secure methods do you have for these schools? And I think it's so coincidental. The irony, right? I don't like that story. I think it's BS. And I think it's a way to protect someone from being held accountable, to be honest. Dante says, shouldn't cops be charged? This is partially on their hands. I believe that once more information is brought up, they're going to look at what information was known, should have been known, to be honest. So, I answered that earlier. We'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening in regards to that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Let's see, you guys. Questions. Bring your questions up. I am going to be taking more questions. If you haven't yet, if you dropped your question, make sure you hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, you guys. Bring your questions in. I'm a 13-year law enforcement veteran, you guys. I can answer these questions. So let's see. What are the chances of these officers being dealt with for not doing the job? So I'm a little behind, but I know I answered that just a few minutes ago. There's going to be, there were 19 officers in the building. No excuse. Absolutely no excuse. Thank you so much. Always be cute. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. You guys, this is horrific. This is absolutely horrific. Real conservative talk. He said, so they didn't go in because they thought no more kids were at risk. Which is stupid, right? Because here's the problem. You don't know if the suspect has any explosive devices. You don't know what he has. He has to be eliminated immediately. Absolutely has to be eliminated immediately. My fear is that I wonder if some of those rounds hit some of those kids, right, from the police side. Um, this could be why some of this information is not being discussed the way it should be. Did some of the rounds of the officers responding to the situation, or some of these bullets, did some of these bullets strike some of these kids, right? And again, there's a lot going on when these things happen, you guys. And just to be fair to the profession, there's a lot going on. But again, this is why we're supposed to be trained. We're supposed to be trained in order to handle these things, thinking outside the box, understanding where all the threats are. There's so much to it. There's so much to it. This is just so disgraceful. Um, let me see. Where's the next question? Don't want to miss any questions. 19 officers should have gotten the job done. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hold on, you guys. I'm scrolling back up. I feel like I missed some questions. Okay, I got that one. No diversions. No diversions deployed whatsoever. Yeah, this is a good question, or a good statement. There's a thing, like called suppressive fire, when dealing in situations like this, use that. You keep the shooter engaged in order to sneak up on them. I mean, there's just so much that could have been done to really address this. How many magazines did he have? Man, I think 60. He had 60 total magazines. Crazy. And they were kind of all over the place. He had 11 magazines at the school, I believe, three on his body. There were two in room 112. He had 32 magazines outside the school. There were 31 magazines in his backpack. And there were 15 magazines in the car. And I believe there were a couple others kind of scattered. He had a total of 60, you guys. A total of 60 magazines that they were able to collect. This whole thing was ridiculous. Yep, real conservative. So they engaged in a shootout with him outside the school. We do know some bullets hit the school, and then he managed to make it inside the door. I don't know how this happened. I hope these officers have body cameras so we can see exactly what transpired. To be honest, you guys, I don't know how they let them happen, but they knew where he went into. That's how they followed behind him. They followed behind him, and they were in the hallway. They were 19 deep. You can't barricade the door enough in a classroom at short notice like that to where officers can't get in. I'm blowing the lock, I'm going in, and you're being shot and killed. It's just that simple. I would love to walk through and see that school and see how the hallways were set up, you guys. I will pull up a map. Matter of fact, let me pull the map up. Give me 1 second, you guys. Give me 1 second. Let me pull the map. All right, let's see. I have the map while this is loading. Let me see. Let me go through here some more. Great questions. We're gonna do a walkthrough of what the layout was inside the school where he came in at. I'm gonna pull up the map so we can go over it. Let me just scroll through, make sure I'm not missing any more questions. Great question here. Question: do you think the quality of police they hire has changed? Seems a lot of hiring is to fit quotas. Man, listen, B. Thomas, this is a great question. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. The quality of officers, being hired were low when I started. They were low when I started, to be completely honest with you. And I started back in 2006. They were already low. And I think body cameras have really exploited this profession, and it exploited it to a way to where it showed people how untrained officers are and how much more training is needed, to be completely honest. See, I'm looking at this map right now and I'm already getting pissed off, you guys. Let me share my screen with the map so you guys can see. You guys, listen, if you're just tuning in, you're just coming in, please, by all means, hit the like button. I'm going to answer and take your questions. For those who are new to my channel, you see the title. This is Real Nathan Daly. I'm a 13-year law enforcement veteran. I have extensive training and knowledge in policing. You guys, if you're not familiar, please check out my other videos. Let's see if I can share this real quick. Let me see if I can do this. How do you? All right. Let me finish taking this question, but I want you guys to look at this map while we're, because this is what pisses me off. So we're gonna go through this map real quick. There's a video of parent yelling at officers to go in. Yeah. So to your point, B. Thomas, yes, the issue is it's too easy to become a police officer, right? Let's just be honest, you guys. It's way too easy to become an officer. The standards are extremely low to enter in. Qualifications are low to enter in. This should be the most difficult job to get hired into, right? You should be one of the best and the brightest of your community to become an officer. The standards should be extremely high. Should be out of 50, maybe only 10 should be qualified, right? And that's not the case. The reality is, we have approximately 700,000 police officers that patrol this country. I would say at least 20% aren't worth a damn. And within that, you have officers out of that 20%. You have those that are corrupt. You have those that are racist. You have those that are, again, unqualified, unfit, not mentally stable, those that are criminals. Yes, we have all the above: pedophiles, thieves, gang members that are in this profession. And it's extremely unfortunate. They've made their way in. And so this is a reality of policing. There is a way to reduce that significantly. I talk about it all the time on my channel. And I think one of the things that have to change is that officers are responding to calls that they really don't need to be responding to. I think over 70% of the 911 calls that are issued out, officers respond to about 90 million calls. They make contact with about 60 million people on average a year. And it's just too much, right? Officers are doing way too much. And the things that we need them to be able to do flawlessly, they fail at, right? Like killing unarmed people, or can't go inside a building and eliminate an active shooter, right? So much time is wasted with police officers doing frivolous things, harassing people for damn stop sign tickets, speeding tickets, when in fact, when we absolutely need our best and our brightest to come in here and execute an operation like this, right? They fail at it. This is where we need them the most. One would argue that out of all the other calls, these are the most important ones. When a person is actively armed and killing somebody, this is where we need our officers to be flawless at, and this is where they're failing. And this is unacceptable. So yes, it is hiring quotas. It's politics, and it's disgusting. And this is why we have the problem. So we need to revamp, but we need people who know what the real issues are. We need people who really know what the real issues are. These politicians, you guys, are lying to you. They're lying to you because they have, a lot of them have personal interests. They're being incentivized by unions and other they have corporate interests and things like that. You guys are not working for us. I could tell you right now what needs to be changed. I say, hey, you guys, push this in your cities and your states. This is the real reform that's needed. And I promise you, we will see a reduction. The police kill about 1,200 people annually. That could be reduced. Mental health shootings, that can be reduced, you guys. The training is just inadequate across this country. It's horrible. You have officers that are joining the police force at the age of 20 and 21. I'm a victim myself, right? I started when I was 20, 21. I was too young to be a cop, you guys. I just was. Healing Force Wellness. Thank you for this question. She says, can this be stopped? This can be handled more efficiently. You'll never stop it, but you can reduce it. You can absolutely reduce this, but you'll never be able to stop this. I did a previous video, you guys, on this shooter, and I addressed, and I said he's equivalent to a natural disaster. A lot of people, there's some people who didn't understand that concept. But if you really think about it, right, he's a natural disaster, a mass shooter, evil people, they are created, right? They are created through influence, through propaganda, through abuse. They come natural through our culture. Our culture creates this level of violence in this country. And a lot of people don't want to be honest about that. A lot of the violence in this country is a testament to our culture, American culture, because you can't compare other countries to this being a developed nation, and the amount of people we have in prison, the amount of mental health we have, the amount of just medical issues, violence, gun violence. You guys, we top the charts across the board. People don't want to talk about this culture and how unhealthy it is for the human mind, the human psyche. We don't discuss that. Why? Because by uncovering that, you start to address this the culture of greed, capitalism, and just the overall everything that makes this country stand on its head, right? And that's not what they want to talk about because it's going to cost people money. And so, unfortunately, in this country, if it makes sense, it does not make dollars, and therefore they're not going to address it. If it makes sense, it doesn't make them dollars. You guys, this is the country that we're in, and it creates a massive mental health issue for a lot of people living here. And that's the reality. This is what I've seen. This is what I've seen, you guys. That's a great question, Healing Force. And your name says it all, Healing Force of Wellness. People are attached to things that don't matter, and it's causing people to lose their mind. No justification in what he did at all, but he's a natural disaster. How do you prepare for a natural disaster? How do you stop a natural disaster? You can't. You can't. You can only prepare for it. And the question now is, how are we prepared for more of these cases? Sandy Hook was a natural disaster. You couldn't stop it. They didn't see it coming. When it happened, you just had to address it. You had to address it in the moment. You didn't know this was going to happen, but it happened. Right? So in the moment of this happening, what do? The most prepared are the ones that survive. Are we prepared for another mass shooter? The answer is no, we're not. We're not prepared because Sandy Hook happened, and here we are again, right? He gained access. The police still waited, and he took so many lives. So many lives. Wolfpack says, do you believe that people should be able to carry military-style rifles? My personal belief, no. Personally, no. Do I think it would have an impact on gun violence? No, I don't think. Whether you have them or not, it's not going to change gun violence, to be honest. But I don't think they should have ever been issued to the public from conception. My personal opinion. I just don't agree with it. Any type of military style weapon, to be honest, high power weapon. What do you think, Wolfpack? What's your thoughts on that? Do you agree or disagree? Let me scroll through some more questions before I pull up this map. Be Free says. Well, do we have any military vets in here? Any military? I know I got one in there. I got a homeboy. He's in here now. Mandra, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this? in reference to the Second Amendment and the military style firearms, I think he would definitely be able to answer this question a lot better. Because the Second Amendment also gives citizens, it's there to protect the citizens from a tyrannical government. So one could argue that the citizens need to have the same type of weapon that the governments have in order to protect themselves appropriately. So that argument is legit. I do agree with that. Again, the problem with the weapons, you guys, is it's not the gun itself. The gun is just a tool. It's the person, right? I think the violence is a reflection of American culture that needs to be addressed, in my personal opinion. Wolfpack again, he says, do you think police should have qualified immunity? I think you need qualified immunity. I think qualified immunity, though, has a loophole in it that allows you to protect officers who used gross negligence when violating a person's constitutional rights. I also think it protects officers it gives officers an excuse to not do better or be better or to rise above the basics, right? So I think qualified immunity is a handicap, it's a crutch, and it's a very, very strong tool of an excuse to protect officers that you pick and choose you want to protect. I think there are components of it that need to be adjusted, but I believe you can still keep qualified immunity and hold police officers accountable. The key component in qualified immunity that people probably don't understand, the key component that's the problem in qualified immunity is that it's to protect officers from, you can't charge an officer for something that has not been, the best way to explain it, clearly established law, right? Clearly established case law or a case that's actually been tried before. Basically, in a nutshell, how do you punish somebody for something that they didn't know they couldn't do? That's pretty much what qualified immunity is. That's the best way to explain it. How do you discipline somebody from something they didn't know that they could not do or was against the law? The problem with qualified immunity is they nitpick every single detail. So you can have a situation where an officer, there is clearly established case law that says you can't do it, but then they start to pick out all these nuances and say, well, the clearly established situation was that an officer can't shoot inside his vehicle, outside his window. But that officer did that with his handgun. Well, then another officer does it. Now they said he can't do that, right? The law now says you cannot do it. Now there's a second officer a year later who's inside his car. He's shooting inside the car, out the window. The law says, clearly established, already says that you can't do that. Well, then the attorneys will then say, or the state will say, well, yeah, he did shoot inside his car out of the window, but instead of a handgun, he was doing it with his rifle. And because last time the officer did it with a handgun, this time he's doing it with a rifle, qualified immunity protects him. That is the problem with qualified immunity. So it creates this, it creates a cop-out. No pun intended, right? But that's how it works. And that's the problem with qualified immunity. Common sense is you can't shoot, right? If it says you can't do it in this situation, it doesn't matter what all these little minor details are. They use the minor details to justify that this never happened. And the problem with that is in policing, there's never going to be, no situation will ever be the same. And qualified immunity uses that concept to to skate officers around civilly from being civilly prosecuted. I hope that was a good way to explain it. It's not that it's complex. It's just very complex. It's a very complicated way to explain a situation, but I hope I was able to explain it well enough. If not, let me know. I'll break it down and I'll break it down more properly. But just from the sake of time, I always try to find an easy way to explain that because it's needed, but there is something in it that allows officers who are unjustified to be protected. And that's the issue with qualified immunity. I've already dissected it and picked out what needs to change from it, but I think there's alternatives to qualified immunity, like having officers have an actual license to police and then also have policing insurance, like doctors have malpractice insurance, and that way citizens can sue an officer's insurance directly. And if they are sued too many times and they're dropped from their insurance company, then the officer in question cannot practice law enforcement no matter where they go. And you kill two birds with one stone, because that officer can't just go to another state, another department, because he needs to be insured. Let's see. Sure. When Second Amendment was implemented, what kind of weapons were they? Okay, I answered that already. Scrolling through, you guys. Put your questions in the chat. Put Q in front of your questions so I don't miss it. Also, if you haven't already, please, please, please check, look down, make sure you hit the like button. I will answer this. This is great. UBU live, or live. Lack of gun laws is the issue, not mental health. Let's answer that first one. Is the lack of gun laws? We can get a map. No, it's not the lack of gun laws. Gun laws, honestly, are not gonna. The criminals don't care about laws. That's what makes them criminals, you guys. The best thing a country can do is stop manufacturing guns at this point. Shantae, if you have the I have a timeline as well. I'll pull the timeline up. I want to pull this up too a little bit more so you guys can see it. But answer this statement real quick. Mental health. You can't. You guys, we have to understand too is, I'm telling you from experience, laws are not going to change this situation. It will make it more difficult for a person, but it doesn't stop the action of a person. Someone said, okay, he's 18, he bought the gun. That's fine. You're right. It's too young for him to have access to guns, right? It's 21 to drink, 18 to buy a rifle. Make it make sense, right? So 25 to get a rental car, right? Like there's all these different age restrictions. They don't make any sense. But let's break it down like this. He could have easily had someone buy a gun for him, right? At 18, if 18 was too young. He could have bought a gun illegally on the streets. That's very possible. He could have got a ghost gun. That's very possible. He could have went to a gun show and bought a gun. Very possible. He could have used a fake ID, fake information to get a gun, you guys. Gun laws, there's way around them. There are absolutely ways around them. Yes, put laws in place, you guys, but I don't want people to think that that is going to be the end all be all. It's just not. It's not. When a person wants to carry out an act of violence, they're going to do it. Mental health. There are many people in this country that are going undiagnosed. A lot of people don't even have medical insurance to begin with. Who's going to volunteer their time to diagnose these people? And once they're diagnosed, then what? That doesn't stop a person from going to buy a gun or getting access to a weapon, you guys. I think it's so easy when we talk about some of these things. A lot of us don't see it in practice. You know, it sounds good out loud in theory, but in practice, you guys, it means nothing. It absolutely means nothing. You want to fix the problem, get these gun manufacturers out of this country, stop manufacturing all these weapons, right? Reduce the magazine sizes, make it illegal to carry assault rifles or make assault rifles, ban those. I mean, those things are possible, but again, you have a lot of citizens who don't want that. You know, again, we're a country that's not on the same page, you guys. Let's look at this map real quick. For those who are unfamiliar, this is a layout of the, I guess, the walkthrough that he explained, the director explained, of the pathway the suspect took. I'm assuming that these yellow arrows are him operating outside of the school, him gaining entry into the school right here. This is the entry door. I'm assuming he didn't give in clarity, but this is where the suspect gained access in. He's coming through the hallway here, and he makes a point to say that these are the two classrooms that the suspect was in where he began shooting. This is class 111, I think, and 112. He said inside the classroom, the two classrooms are joined together. You can walk through both classrooms from one entry. Again, I don't know how the suspect was not taken out or how he was given so much time to carry out this madness, you guys. It does not make sense to me. It does not add up. I believe that they're not being they're not they're being very they're being very dishonest about what took place, you guys. This doesn't make sense. Mind you, according to them, there are 19 police officers in this hallway right here. They were engaged with them. They had to have been somewhere here. More likely, they would have been here because they have cover. And they are engaging in a shootout with the suspect. They said he was barricaded inside. They chose not to go after him because they were under the impression that the kids were killed. What they did not express was that whether or not they were in active dialogue with them, you guys, essentially this will be constituted as a hostage situation at that point in time. And so I don't know. I don't understand. They're saying that, he barricaded himself in. What that looked like, I don't know. But again, they were able to breach the door, eventually go in and kill him. But at that point, he had already taken all the lives. Right. So I don't know. There's a lot of confusion, hypocrisy going on in what was stated. So I couldn't tell you. But this is the map that they laid out for us. This has to be outside of the school grounds. Going around, he gained access here. He gained access here. This has to be a door, I'm assuming. He walks by all of these classrooms. These are all classrooms. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm assuming they had active students in them. But he went into these. Maybe this was the only classroom doors that were unlocked, right? Maybe the other ones were locked. Even if the doors were unlocked, he could shoot the locks and get the door open, right? That's possible. I don't know what training that this school has in reference to active shooter. I've seen trainings where the students are told to prop open, put desks on doors to give more time, buy more time for officers to get into the scene and eliminate the threat. So I don't know what was going on in the classroom at the time, how he gained entry into the individual classrooms themselves. They did not say. We do not know. And again, I don't think we have any live witnesses that could actually tell us how that whole thing transpired. What we do know, and the officers were inside the school. They were not outside the school. There were 19 in the hallway, according to the director. So the fact that he was still alive makes no sense to me whatsoever. We got to make it make sense, you guys. Add your questions. Take a look at this map. Let's keep scrolling through so I can get to these questions. You guys are bringing up some really great questions. Please, if you're just joining us, please hit the like button on your way in. Please subscribe. Check to make sure you subscribed, you guys. Please take a look. Make sure you're subscribed. Here's the problem. There were over, let me get these, how many 911 calls that, these kids called in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Approximately 9 911 calls. You guys, this is absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Let me get to these questions. Again, what you're looking at is the map that the director provided to show us the pathway the suspect took, and then also the classrooms that he entered. He entered in one door. That door is joined by two. Two classrooms were joined by one. That's something that they're probably going to have to look at as well moving forward. Would it be safer to make sure that classrooms aren't joined like that, so that if a suspect does get access into one classroom, they can't get access into another? My question, though, is, and this better not be the case, because I swear to God, if this is the outside of the school, are there windows, right? Is there windows to this classroom that officers could have gained entry? You guys, I hope not. I hope not. I really hope not. I really hope not. But I know more information will kind of unfold. But Duke Tomlinson says, will mainstream media report fully on this stand down? Yeah, they have to. They absolutely have to. The parents are going to demand it. There's a lot of people that are going to be. There's a lot of people that are going to have issues behind this. A lot of questions need to be answered, and they were asking some good questions at the conference. You guys, they owe it to the people to sit out there and answer every damn question, to be honest, until people get blue in the face. This is just this whole thing is just tragic. Let's see. Yeah, shout out to you, Shantae. Yes, they do practice this drill. We need to start getting the elementary schools on board. There is a drill that is practice that needs to be done. So I don't know what's been trained, but I don't know what's been trained, but there needs to be a training. There needs to be better training. You guys, I don't know what mainstream media is going to talk about. They don't, I don't know if they have any legit information, but they're going to try to justify this. There is no justification. To be honest, they just weren't. Let me scroll through. You guys put your questions in the chat. Let me pull up CNN and see what they're talking about. Let's see. This is why people want to homeschool their kids, to be honest, you guys. At this point, it's like you can't. Yeah, good point. I can't even argue that. Can't even argue that. Let me scroll through. Shout out to you, Dub Will 88. He said armed guards at the school, Jewish schools, are like a fortress, man. And they don't try to hide it. Nope. It's entirely too easy to walk into a public school. Listen, I can attest to this. I've worked in the patrolled Jewish communities, and I'll tell you what, I had to get out. I in the whole police car, truck, everything. They had armed security guard outside of the compound, and I had to get permission to get in. They had to buzz me in. You guys, listen, you can secure these facilities properly. What is the problem in this country? They don't want to spend the money. Yet they'll send $40 billion overseas in a heartbeat. You guys, we don't protect our own people. Let's just be honest. We don't protect our own people in this country. Not in not medically, not in the criminal justice field, not our children. Right? They're not protected. You guys, it's money. It's profit over people in America. Let's be honest. Right? Shout out to you, Dub Will. You're absolutely right. It can be done. It can absolutely be done. It can be done. We have the money to do it. We choose not to do it. There's a big difference. Shout out to you, M. Mills. She said she's a veteran. Thank you for your service. Thank you to all the veterans in the chat. She said no civilian should not have military assault weapons. I agree. Dub said AR-15s aren't military weapons. Let's just say assault rifles. Question: were the cops scared? Did they do their job correctly? No, they did not do their job correctly. I don't know if they were scared or not. They have to be. They some had to have been. The fact that no officers died means they didn't do their job properly, in my opinion. And no disrespect to the police officers, but if he was that big of a threat, officers got grazed, none died. They weren't trying hard enough, in my opinion. And Perry, how can we prevent the next Uvalde, Texas? How do we prevent it, you guys? Hell, to be honest with you, what should have been done, we're going to have to put, schools need to have metal detectors. Schools need to have armed. See, the problem with this country is we're so concerned about the aesthetics, the optics of a thing. We don't want kids to look at police officers. People are urgent. People don't want police officers in schools. They talk about the school to prison pipeline. There's all these things about looking pretty. We want things to look pretty in this country when things are very ugly in this country, right? We don't want to talk about the truth. We don't want to talk about the reality that these things can happen. We need to teach kids that these things are possible and how to protect themselves. Obviously, these kids are calling 911, right? They experiencing something tragic and they're whispering and they're holding it down. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And we failed. The adults failed, right? So, we're not spending the money. We don't want to invest in our own people. We sent $40 billion overseas, right? So how do you prevent it? These schools need to fortify these schools properly. Controlled access. Training, We don't want to teach the kids how to protect themselves if we think it's going to damage them, right? Like there's so many. It's the logic is so backwards. It's so backwards. You'll never be able to stop it, but you can reduce it, right? You can reduce it. Obviously, the officers got to be trained better. That goes without saying. Um, Questions. Shout out to you, D. Craze. He said regarding school safety, and not to take away from how bad the officers handled this. Question regarding school safety. What's the question? Question regarding school safety. I'm not sure your question, but if you're talking about school safety, controlled access locks, right? I think inside the doors, the doors need to, if you think about it, the doors need to be secured in classrooms. I think it's an opportunity now for us to discuss what is protocol. When you're in school, inside a classroom teaching, the doors need to be locked. There needs to be a way to immediately engage some type of emergency barricade to protect students inside. I mean, there is a couple things, right? There could be, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, there could be a, a 2-point entry access into a classroom where a teacher has to allow secondary access, right? Like there's trying to think of a way to describe it. You have like a revolving door, maybe into like a restaurant, and you got to go in and go around, and then you can get in. Maybe something like that can be set up into classrooms to where the teacher is the only one that can give access into the classroom, while revolving in. So that way you can protect. I mean, people are going to have to get really damn creative at this point. But again, you guys, it costs money, right? It costs money. And a lot of times people don't want to invest in things that we claim are valuable. So let's see. Let me go through. Let me see. Question, but isn't ignorance to the law no excuse? That's what they say. I think it's BS, right? But I think if we use that, we need to start educating people on the law properly. Shout out to Mandra. What does he say? Unfortunately, citizens should be able to purchase and own military-style firearms. The government and criminals are going to get them regardless. The battlefield must be fair and balanced. Shout out to Mandra. This is a military man talking, you guys. He's absolutely correct. I said that earlier. I think one of the issues is the argument. One of the arguments. Now, me personally, my personal view on it is different. My professional view, constitutional view on it is that the citizens need to have access to what the military have access to, or if not, then how do you protect yourself from a tyrannical government? I think that is the argument. The issue is we have too many ignorant and I'm about to say another word. We have people who aren't mature enough to handle weapons, right? I think that's really at the end of the day is the biggest issue. Um, unfortunately, we have people who don't know the law on both ends, even police officers, which is the reason why we need better training. When will you wake up from this nightmare? You will not, Duke. You will not. This is the reality. Unfortunately, this is the reality. The SRO was out on lunch. Or I won't say lunch. The SRO, there was somebody that was off campus, an armed person, and this is why I say, there's too many coincidences. There's too many. But again, why is a security or SRO leaving campus? You should never be allowed to leave campus without someone who is replacing you, right? Like, there should always be someone on duty. I think that's something that needs to be looked at and examined as well. But to what they said, that someone did leave. I don't know if that person was replaced or not. Let's see. Do we know if the kid was on or ever on any medication? We do not know. We do not know. I think initially, I don't know if it's been updated, that they said this is they're not sure if there's any mental health issues. Shout out to Jay, said mental health is an issue. Mental health is an issue. It absolutely is an issue. The problem is, how do you address it without violating a person's rights? People who have mental health have rights as well. And I would like to know, someone in the chat, what are your thoughts about mental health? What do you do with the person that has a mental health issue? How do you keep them from getting guns? You can't lock them in a basement. You cannot put them in jail, right? They haven't committed a crime. You can't send them to a mental institution forever. They are going to be released at some point in time. They have access to money. They have access to guns, right? If they know someone who has a gun, they can get it from them. If they break into a car, they can get a gun. If they break into a house, they can get a gun. Having mental health doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the fact that you can still get access to a gun. This country is full of weapons. Full of weapons. You can, 1 out of 5 homes, there's going to be a weapon in there. This is where our criminals get guns. The ones who can't get them legally, they get them illegally. A majority of citizens, a majority of firearms are stolen from vehicles. You guys, we're too cavalier with how we carry guns. We don't secure them properly. We don't maintenance them properly. We have them everywhere. We have too many of them. Criminals are getting them from careless gun owners. Yeah, make it make sense. Make it make sense. Let me get to these questions. You guys are bringing up some really great questions. Do you think the video cams that were placed in and out of the school will be shown publicly? Yes, I believe we will get access to the cameras. There have been one video, some still shots that they provided showing him outside the school. Yikes. Worst case scenario would be each officer shot. Yeah, I know. That would be horrible. I wonder how this shootout happened. I'm really curious, because they got a lot of explaining to do. When are you going to talk about the corrupted man? Dude, Muhammad, you gotta we on this particular topic, man. Keep up. If you don't like what we're talking about, Muhammad, you're more than welcome to start a channel and talk about the things you want to talk about. Right now, we're talking about this massacre that happened at the school. All right, so stay on task. Kessie Brown said, outside of legal actions, to what can be done financially, hold police officers more accountable. Honestly, I'm gonna just be honest with you guys. The reason why this country is in the condition that it's in regards to policing, just overall, is because these are the people that we vote in. We the people have all the power, and we don't use it. We just gotten too comfortable allowing politicians to do things, get away with things. We're not holding them accountable. They have the power to enforce policies. They are the servants. They serve us, right? We hold them accountable, and we're not doing that. If they want to keep their job, they need to do the job that we're asking them to do. You guys, that's how it works, and we're not doing that. To be completely honest, we're absolutely not doing that. I think this is a great question. How do you hold police accountable? You got to first hold politicians accountable, because the politicians, a lot of them are they're being directed by people who are paying them. It needs to be very direct with what we want and what we're asking for. And it needs to be very clear that if this does not get handled, you will not be voted back in. And it's a collective effort. Everybody needs to be on the same page, to be honest. That's the fastest way to police accountability, is through political accountability. The politicians need to be held accountable, you guys. Before you vote in this next governor, people need to say, hey, here's what our demands are, and we want a campaign promise. And if you can't address this and handle this, if we don't see anything being implemented, you can kiss them that next election goodbye, right? We just got to start holding these people accountable, you guys. Absolutely. I agree with this. I agree with this. Let me see. Question: should the police, sheriff, and deputies all be replaced immediately? Should they all take leave for the the effing failure to save the children? I think we need qualified people to have this conversation. To be completely honest with you, there are issues with policing right now that nobody is really having the conversation. You guys, I can have it. I can tell you exactly what needs to be fixed. And I promise you, if they implement any of my reform ideas, we would not have these problems. We would not. There is, replacing them, but keeping the same practices won't change anything, right? That's the problem. That's the problem. Let's see. Let me see. What do you think about the school officers not being there? That's suspicious as hell. I'm gonna be honest with you, because this is a school. There should be a policy that says that someone has to always be on grounds. And check this out. My thing is, you can eat at the school. If you want something to eat, either you get it delivered, or someone needs to be watching or replacing you while you're gone. But to have nobody present, again, you assume because it's an elementary school that nothing's going to happen. I think that's the problem. We always need to be vigilant. We always need to be on alert, right? Every single day, you cannot in a job of service, you can't slack off, and that's what happens. We get so comfortable. We get lax with security. We get lax with everything. Every day needs to be a potential threat. And as citizens, that's also how we need to maneuver. But that does seem very suspicious to me. I don't like it. It sounds like it is an excuse to cover up someone's negligence, to be honest. And I don't believe it. I think there's more to it. Duke again says, Nathan, how does an 18-year-old who works at McDonald's afford a very expensive set of guns like Shooter did? I don't know. Don't get me to start bringing up my conspiracies, to be honest, because that's expensive. He had 60 magazines, for that assault rifle. You guys, listen, those magazines, depending on what type of rifle he had, I know mine about $50, almost $60, but I have a very, I buy quality stuff, but still, you're talking about $50. Someone just does the math on that. You're talking, if he had, let's say the magazines cost $50. He bought 60 of them. That's $3,000 right there. The rifle itself is about $1,200, depending on what kind of rifle he had. All that ammunition, hell, I can't even get that many ammunition for my rifle. I thought there was a shortage, you guys. This guy where did he get the money from? I don't know. And we don't really know what his financial situation was, even though he was working at McDonald's, right? So he could have been saving up his money. He could have saved up his money for months and bought all this stuff. So he could have been recruited by an organization online, just like the Buffalo, New York shooter. Again, you guys, we don't know. These things could all be connected, right? This could be an organization online who is telling their people to, now it's time to act, right? Like this could very much well be the reality as well. You have an organization online that's been indoctrinating young kids, young adults, and now they could be saying, hey guys, this is the time to attack. And this is the problem with our country, right? We don't even take that as a real possibility. You guys, that's a possibility that you have sleeper groups and cells in this country that are just waiting for the opportunity to catch us off guard. Why? Because every day in this country we're not on guard. We're not on guard. We walk around so oblivious in this country. People are saying, why is this happening to us? You guys, it can happen at a moment's notice. We're not safe in this country. I said this is equivalent to a natural disaster, meaning you have no control over it. And the consequences are grave if you're not prepared. When you have people who live in a country where there's tornadoes, you guys, they have shelters, they have bunkers. They are prepared at a moment's notice. We're not prepared in this country, and I think that's the reality. Nina Lynn, thank you for watching. Thank you for streaming with us. She said, do you feel that some protocols were not followed when police decided to wait? Absolutely, because these officers were trained. The director stated that they were trained to respond to these type of active shooter threats, and they did not respond properly at all. And so there lies the problem, in my opinion. So yeah, they did not. They went against their own training and policy. When you have an active shooter, again, what they stated or what they tried to justify was the fact that because they assumed that he went from active shooting to barricading, meaning that they heard no more gunshots. They assumed that that he was not a threat anymore, and that was a very stupid assumption, which I don't agree that's the truth at all. I believe he's being dishonest. To be completely honest, I don't believe that. So again, and the evidence does not support that. Why do I say the evidence doesn't support that? If we look at the key moments here, they're very clear. The video shows let's walk through the timeline, right? Let's walk through the timeline. You guys can bring your questions up still. I'll still get through the questions. I'll roll through them. Question Q is just Satan. Hey, those who know. Shout out to you, Space Jew. Space Jew. Let me scroll through here real quick. I don't know. With the FBI involved now, it's hard to say. There's no way to necessarily cover up. I think what you'll start to see is contradictory statements that are gonna come out. To be honest, shout out to you, Kevin. He said decentralized policing and training are no longer effective. It is time for national level standardization before these attacks become more. Yep, I agree. I think that's one of the biggest problems with policing now. It's not standardized. An officer should be able to go anywhere, any state, and all the training is consistent and the same. Very true, very accurate. I agree with that. Let's look at this timeline real quick. I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, let's stick with this. 11:27 video shows. 11:27. Listen, this just so happened to be just so convenient that the shooter's there when someone's coming out. Entered, was propped open by a teacher. Why is the door propped open? Right? Look at the timeline. Ramos crashes a vehicle near the school into a ditch, gets out, begins firing upon two people who came outside. It's almost as if this was staged, right? It's almost as if this was actually orchestrated, you guys. Look at this. Video shows that an exterior door to Ross Elementary was propped open. The teacher runs to a room to get a phone, returns to the door, and the door remains open. 911 call made reporting a crash and a man with a gun outside the school. 11:30 a.m. An announcement should have been made inside the school to lock all doors. Right? There's an active shooter. All that should have went down, you guys. That's standard protocol. 11:30 a.m. U.S. Marshal Services receive a call as well. 11:31. The shooting suspect reaches the last row of cars in the school parking lot, and shooting begins outside the school. At this point in time, you guys, they should have maintained an engagement with the shooter. There's no way. Eventually, his back has to turn. Eventually, he has to walk and run away, right? Eventually, all that needs to take place. There's no reason, there's no justification for it. You know, no justification for it, you guys. These officers failed. These officers really, really failed at their job. To be completely honest. Let me scroll through. The suspect fires at the school at 11:32. Listen, in this case right here, right? Patrol vehicles reach funeral home and a patrol car drives by shooter who's hunkered down by another vehicle. You guys, this is when we start using suppressive fire. You know, we use suppressive fire to get closer to the shooter. The tactics were poor. 11:32, suspect fires at the school. At this point in time, from 11:27 to 11:32, the school should have been notified to lock the classrooms, lockdown, go into lockdown. I want to know what the lockdown procedures are, what is taught, and where they done, where they being executed. That's where this is. The communication is key. The suspect enters the school and begins shooting into a classroom. He shot more than 100 rounds. Now, he goes in 11:33, starts shooting rounds into a classroom. His back is turned, you guys. My thing is, what are the police doing when they hear active gunfire while they're outside and he's inside the school? You can't shoot two different directions at the same time, you guys. They should have ran up on him and took him out. At some point, you can't shoot 100 rounds. You have to reload. You have to reload. A total, 11:35, total of 7 officers are on scene. 3 officers enter the school, later followed by additional team of 3 more officers and a sheriff. 2 of the initial officers received grazing wounds from the suspect while the classroom. If the officer's alive, his ass should have been in there still fighting, you guys. Grazed wound, a grazing wound? No. The fact that no officers died, you guys, to be honest, no disrespect to law enforcement, because I am former law enforcement. No officers died, then there's no justification for this. This is fear. This is fear. Because if you can't justify that officers didn't die and then the suspect is still alive shooting, no, this is a joke. 16 rounds were fired between 11:37 and 11:44 a.m. The problem is they assumed that all the kids were already dead, assuming. By 12 o'clock, 19 officers were present in the hallway. A girl in room 112 makes a 911 call. And guess what? What else did she say? She's still making 911 calls. The same girl, right, reporting there were 8 to 9 students alive, 12/16. You guys, they had a shootout beginning. There's no excuse. I can't express it enough. There's no damn excuse at all. There's nothing they can say. Legal action taken. Casey Brown says legal action taken against municipality comes from our tax dollars. What financially can be done regarding police officers to make them more accountable for their actions? Officers need to be insured. I think officers need their own individual insurance. They need to be looked at as individual contracts. Therefore, they can be held accountable individually and not police departments. I think that's the direction we need to go in moving forward. And again, people say, well, how are they going to afford it? Well, those who can afford it will be police officers. Those who can't won't. And it'll just leave it for the best and the brightest, to be honest. What about the victim's family being able to sue the suspect's family? That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. They're going to sue the school. You got to sue where the pockets are. The school failed. Officers failed. They're going to sue the departments, to be honest. Shout out to you, Ms. Watchman. Yeah, it's hard to find good people to do the job. You know, it's hard to find good people to do the job. But people, honestly, this is a good one. Edward Moore says the system that we designed for alert and access lockdowns cost between $65 to $180K up front to install. No one wants to spend the money. There we go, you guys. I said it before, people don't want to spend the money. Again, profit over people. That is the American way. That's the American way. If it makes sense, it does not make dollars, you guys. That is the American way. Yep. Shout out to Miss Watford, says she never leaves campus. Yeah. You know, even when I patrolled, you guys, I always carried my lunch. I always carried my lunch in the car because at any point in time, you know, you don't have the freedom to go get up and get something to eat when it's convenient for you. I always wanted to be ready and prepared. Always. Shout out to OC the Great TV. Shout out to his brother. We did a live stream. It was a great discussion about policing issues. Shout out to you. He has a great channel, you guys. Please go and check him out. If the moderators, if you could put a link to his chat, Gail, I know you run it in circles for me. I really appreciate it. I want to shout him out. Please go and check out his channel. OC the Great said the police should be fully trained for this stuff by now. Let's stop making excuses. I agree 110%. There is no excuse, you guys. Absolutely no. We had kids from Sandy Hook who were the victims of this already. Their lives should have been the lessons that we learned, and we did not. We did not. Some departments did a great job of adopting new tactics, new training methods. Again, I told you the tools that they gave us, the training that I received as well. And we did active shooter training like every 4 years, you guys. They made sure we were refreshed on it. It is expensive. It is expensive. But this is the problem. And OC will agree with this. You know, here's the problem, you guys, with policing. We spend so much time and money doing things that aren't as relevant. This right here is where the training needs to matter most. And they failed. They failed. And again, because no officers died is the biggest excuse for me right now. I don't understand it. I don't. Those officers should have died trying to kill him. Absolutely. 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 Let me scroll through. If you got questions, you guys, put a Q in front. Put a Q in front of it so I know scrolling down to answer it, and then we're going to get back on the timeline. He said, "Do you see the video of the police outside? If you were the spokesperson, how would you address those of us that have been that seen the video?" I would have been honest, SO. I would have been honest. I would have been honest and said we failed. We completely failed. And I would have reprimanded the officers for not responding. Every officer should have took an entry into that school. All those people in, there's no excuse for it. Yes, you got to hold those people back. You got to do that, but those officers should have went in and took them out. No, I think what happened is that you had all those officers in. No one wanted to take point. No one wanted to be a leader. They were probably never trained in leadership, or any type of leadership tactics, and they sat there and they froze. They didn't advance on him. They absolutely could not have advanced on him because he lived so long. Great question. That's what I want to know. There's a teacher who left the door propped open. So that needs to be addressed. Again, I'm wondering if we learned anything from Sandy Hook. I feel like nothing was learned. Nothing was learned. Nothing was learned. Shout out to you, Dwayne. Said majority of mass school shooters, number 1, are under 21. Number 2 is a troubled teen. Number 3 can buy a legal gun. Laws can fix that. Can laws fix that, you guys? I disagree. I disagree, right? I disagree. And that's why I say mass shooters, people like this, they are a natural disaster. You can't fix this. You can't fix this. Them being under the age of 21 doesn't matter, right? You don't. Age has nothing to do with being a mass shooter, right? Um, troubled teen. There's troubled everybody, right? All ages. You got people that are troubled, and so there are other mass shooters in this country, you guys. You don't hear about them. On average, we're talking 600 mass shootings, 600, and majority of them are adults, right? Like there are adults mass shooters out here. And since we're on the subject, on the data, give me 1 second. Let me pull some data up for you guys in reference to that. You guys, if you're just coming in, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I would love to have you subscribed. We have a lot of in-depth conversations here in regarding this issues, just issues in general with law enforcement. You guys know there's just been so much going on in general. Let's look at something real quick. I think this would be. Let's look at the gun violence, you guys, real quick. I'm gonna segue out of this, and this is gonna be towards Dwayne Wilkins. I think Wilkins, this is a great statement, though. I don't want you to think that's not a good statement. You guys, please drop your questions in the chat. We are taking questions, and let me see. Hold on. Let me do this real quick. Let's take a look at this, you guys. This is the gun violence archive from 2021. I will drop it in the chat. I think it's very important. I always like to share my data points and reference points with you guys so you guys can take a look at these things as well. I just dropped it in the chat. Please continue to drop your questions as well. We're going to look through this real quick, and then I'll be back on the other screen. But I want to cover this. I think Dwayne brings a good point in reference to gun violence. Let's look at this. This is gunviolencearchive.org. They keep up with all of the shootings and things of that nature. Let's look at, and a lot of this comes from like the CDC report as well, you guys. Let's take a look at this. Total gun deaths, all causes in this country. We're looking at 45,000, right? Out of those, we're looking at homicide, murder, that's 20,000, suicide, 24,000. Look at here, down here, we're talking about mass shootings. Even the year before, this is 2020, this is 2021. How many mass shootings do we have last year, you guys? 692 mass shootings. How do you define a mass shooting? A mass shooting is when four or more people killed by gunfire. You guys, that's a mass shooting. You can have 20 people shot, 4 people killed. That's a mass shooting. All right. That's the data. Could this have been a setup? Absolutely. This could have been a setup for elements. Absolutely. Listen, we live in a country, unfortunately, you guys, where politics reign supreme. Politics over people, right? This absolutely could be. You notice this always comes around time for election. Always. It's deep, right? It gets deep. What are we looking at here? Number of children. This doesn't give us the suspects. Yeah, it does. Officer involved incidents. We know officers involved shootings, 1,300. Suspects killed or injured, 891. Again, if we look here, unintentional shootings, 2,000. Murder suicides, 593. We know what a murder suicide is, you guys. So again, this is the data. I dropped it in the link for you guys to take a look at. When you look at the deaths from children, of course, the numbers here as well. Mass murder, for those who are not familiar, mass murders are basically 3 or more people killed without the use of a gun in one given setting. That's a mass murder. So, for example, if a person had a knife and they took the life of 3 people, 3 or more, with that knife, said knife, that would be considered a mass murder. Using explosives, that will constitute as well. That's where the numbers come from. That's the difference between a mass shooting, mass murder. So again, you guys, listen, total of mass shootings, 692 last year, 610 for the year before. This is a known thing. The archive gives you a lot of data over the years. Again, mass shootings. This is something that does happen frequently in this country. Just to kind of give you guys some insight on that. Let me Can you continue through these questions? Let me see. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see. Yeah, he bought 2 rifles. He definitely paid over $5K. Yeah, the cheapest thing you can buy for a rifle these days is about $800, $900. And so he definitely spent some money. Let me go through some last final questions, you guys, before we close out. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Shout out to you, Dre. He's also in the chat. Good question. She says, Q1 says, is there an ammo threshold that alerts the FBI? No, but I think it's a great idea. That might be something that needs to be added. If it doesn't alert the FBI, it does alert the ATF. What's funny is they have certain things if you buy, like certain places won't allow you to buy certain type of material, like a bunch of fertilizer and things like that, because you can make explosives out of it. So there are alert systems in place. To be honest, I don't know if the ATF has one. That's something that definitely needs to be implemented at this point. But again, there's ways around that. Maybe there needs to be a better way to document people when they're buying excessive amount of ammunition. Maybe they need to stop selling ammunition to the public, right? I mean, something needs to happen. Honestly, I don't know, because I don't know, to be honest, because it's in my opinion, you can't stop people from committing these acts of terror. So I always like to focus on the protection, right? Not the cure, but how do you, in my opinion, how do you prep yourself to deal with the inevitable, right? How do people prep for a natural disaster? I think that's how, as a nation, we need to start looking at these situations. Do I agree with qualified immunity? I did answer this earlier. I agree that you need qualified immunity. I believe that it needs to be redone to where it does not protect the wrongdoing when officers commit wrong, right? So I do believe officers do need a form of civil protection, but not to the extent to where they can get away with gross negligent actions and illegal actions. That's where qualified immunity needs to be addressed. Were the officers shooting to kill the suspect? Shit, I hope so. I hope so. They just did a horrible job at it, because he went from outside to inside, and I don't know how he made it inside without being killed. So I'm really, really, really curious if they have the body cam. I'm waiting to see the footage. They froze. Yep, I agree. They had to have. Yeah, they knew way too much for him to have gotten away with this much, to be honest. Yeah, they knew way too much. Let's see. Taking any more questions? Let me scroll through, get some more of these last questions, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging with us on this last minute stream, you guys. I wanted to make sure I brought you guys some up-to-date information. And let me keep through. Any last questions? Anything that I missed? If I missed your question earlier, you guys, please drop it real quick. I'm scrolling down to see if I catch anything. Do I think they'll hold people accountable? Yes. I believe the family are going to demand it. I think the family is going to demand it. What is that going to look like? I don't know. I don't know. And shout out to you again, Chemo. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna bring truth to this subject matter, you guys. I really want to change this situation. I really do. I really do. And the only way to change it and bring truth to it is you have to be honest. And we have too many people in law enforcement, too many politicians that are disingenuous, that are dishonest, and that's why we're not solving these problems. We need metal detectors. I think what's going to have to happen is that we're going to have to start putting police officers at the entry points, limit and reduce the amount of entry points, and put police officers outside. You know, 2 inside and then 1 at every door. And I don't care if you need to dress them up as a teddy bear with the rifle inside and a bulletproof vest, so that kids think it's cute and they're not disturbed. But I think you definitely need to have police officers now at the entryways of each door. Shout out to you. So gotta hit these ATL streets. Talk to you later. Thank you for sharing your views. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Always appreciate your support. Always appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much. Shout out to you, Lioness. Yeah, he did not have body armor on. I don't think he did. So, oh man, you guys, we don't need cops at schools. So, Lucky says we don't need cops at schools. Well, we don't need unqualified cops at schools. We need cops at school. We do. The problem is this police problem that we have right now is that we just don't have good. We're lacking in good quality officers. You know, you think about what we've been through: COVID, defund the police. You know, a lot of good officers did leave. A lot of bad officers entered, and a lot of bad officers still stayed. And shout out to Chris Johnson. Yeah, politicians tell you what you want to hear. So yeah, I don't know. I would love to see that case though. In reference to that, I would like to look into that. If you have that, email it to me. I would really like to look into that more. I'll definitely do a show on that. Qualified immunity needs to be adjusted properly to where it doesn't protect officers from wrongdoing. Right? That's not what it was intended for. It's used as a handicap to protect bad officers or protect officers they want to protect. So that needs to be addressed. They don't want to get rid of qualified immunity because a lot of other public officials have it. And if you take it away from one, you have to take away from all, and they're not going to let that happen. Power, man. It's a power dynamic, unfortunately. Shout out to you, Great Pill. At the moderator, you can drop Great Pill's his link in the chat. You guys, please check him out. Great content creator. I did a stream with him as well. Great conversation over there. Have I been blocked? Have you been blocked? Nah, what you mean? What you talking about? You're not blocked. His question is, any more information on the 18-year-old grandmother? His grandmother was told she was in the hospital. No, I did see an update. Let me run back. I did see an update real quick. Let me see. Yeah, this guy was crazy. This guy was crazy. Yeah, I'm not sure about the grandmother, but I haven't heard that she had passed away. Oh, she said, Patricia, I'm sorry. I thought you was talking to me. I'm like, girl, I didn't block you. I'm seeing your update. My bad. Sometimes I just be clicking. Listen, you guys. Shout out to Dre. Oh, she died? Wow, I didn't know that. I don't know that. I wasn't able to confirm that yet. Damn. I don't know where he shot her at though. I gotta look into that. You know, so much tragedy, man. Lately, this month has just been a nightmare, to be honest. Shout out to Dre. He says, at what point um, would there be a universal standardized active shooter training where departments across the country train together? I think I don't see that happening because it's expensive. I think there needs to be a consistent training that's across the board that everybody follows. Same protocol, same guidelines. But cross training, I think, will be more effective on a state level, local levels. I think when departments are training, Dre, you know, this too is like the best thing would be for all the local agencies. So if you're in a city and there's 6 police departments in that city, and you guys all share kind of similar resources, you know, I mean, maybe like 10 schools within that city. You all train together. One of the things that we did was I think, you know, officers need to be updated on layouts in schools. They need to have those on their computers, you guys. I carried layouts to the elementary schools and high schools on my computer. And so in the event something happens, I can pull out the layout. I can know where to respond. But again, that came from my training. That came from my training from active shooter. I did not want to fail. I wanted to make sure I was prepared properly. Um, I don't know why they needed Border Patrol, to be honest. Again, that right there makes me skeptical too. The feds are the ones that took the shot. The feds are the ones that came in. It seems all this seems very staged to me. It seems very suspicious. You know, these things you can get into a rabbit hole with this with conspiracies. Like maybe there was a kidnapping, maybe there was a target that was inside that classroom that needed to be taken. I mean, there's so much, you guys. There's absolutely so many directions you can go with this. The fact that they waited for the feds to come in, the feds took the shot. Uh, you know, kids are missing. I mean, I don't want to go down that road out of respect for the situation. But you guys don't ever want me to open up Pandora's box on my channel. You just don't, because it honestly, you can't win with the fight against the feds. I would never assume that I could, and I would never, you know, put this channel in jeopardy by exposing things that people need to hear about. To be honest, not everybody's ready for that conversation. To be completely honest, there's a lot of things that this really could be. You know, honestly don't even want to get into it, because my main focus is to focus on, you know, police reform, fixing police issues, and things of that nature. What the feds do, to be honest, you know, it's sad. It's very sad. But you know, as time goes on, you know, we will. Shout out to you, bro. I'll definitely try to jump on there around that time and kind of give some insight as well. Just remind me, just send me a message. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So again, you guys look at what's really going on. Look at the politics, and you got to just think deeper. And all right, let me check. Let me check on that real quick. Let me check on that real quick. You guys look at the politics. Look at what's going on. You know, again, these people will tell you. These people will tell on themselves every time. All right, they'll tell on themselves every time. The timing of this is very very impeccable, and again they want they got their own agenda, you guys. Let me look to see where the if the mom is speaking out. Let me see if I can find that. Seems like it's happening between seasons. True. This would make sense. This would make sense. You know, and I said this earlier, Robert. I'm glad you mentioned this. You guys, I wouldn't be surprised if there's an online group that is saying, you know, hey, you guys, time to carry out this, right? They have the money, to give these radicalized, these imbeciles of our nation, and they put them out here and say, here's money, here's how you get it, we're going to bring you guys access to this, go out here and do what you do, right? And so I would not be surprised. That's not far-fetched at all. It could be one of those things where now it's a situation where it's like, hey, we are going to activate and carry out what we said we wanted to do, right? I think that is a strong reality, you guys. Very strong reality. And to be completely honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. So, any last thoughts, you guys? I'm gonna continue to do some more research on this. If anything else comes up, I'll definitely, yeah. Shout out to those who know, right? Shout out to you, Linus. Shout out to you with that. Um, 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 I think that's a good question. I don't know. It's a lot to dive into. He said you're not accurate. All you have to do is create the lesson plan, and I can along with my fellow instructors, we can implement it. Yeah, no, I agree. We can do it. We can definitely do it. It's a lot of places, to do. I mean, we need to come up with something. Absolutely need to come up with something. And we need to get everybody on the same page. But even with this, even with fixing the training, we got to fix the quality people doing this job. And yes, again, the gun culture is the reason why this will never stop. Absolutely true. If anybody wants to come up real quick, if you want to come up and add a couple 2 cents, I don't know. Y'all probably won't. We've already been on long enough. It's going on 3 hours. I probably won't bother. I don't think y'all want to come up. I don't think nobody want to come up. I'm not gonna hold y'all up. Let me see. I want to hear if the grandmother is saying something. These guys failed, you guys. They failed horribly. They failed horribly. Any thoughts? Any last thoughts, you guys, before I run out? I think we covered pretty much everything for the most part. The updates. I mean, again, they admitted that they failed. They tried to do it in a very discreet way, but what? Yeah, cuckoo. Yeah, for sure. Who would have knew, right? What are they on, Jay? What station are they on? I'll pull it up real quick. What station are they on? Shout out to Jill Chocolates Boutique. Thank you so much, love. I appreciate this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody who donated on this stream. You guys, we covered a lot. If you're new, just getting in, please do the recap. We went over a lot of great questions. Newsweek. All right, check Newsweek. A lot of great questions that the audience asked. I was able to answer, I would say, pretty much all of them. And you guys gave some really great questions. Texas shooting, gunman's mom asked for forgiveness for son. Damn, this is deep. Let's see what the gunman's mom. Let's see what she has to say. I'll definitely pull this up real quick. Sad. I tell people all the time, you guys, someone is out here raising the killer, right? Someone is always out here raising them. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Jill's Chocolate Boutique. Shout out to you, Jill. I gotta see about these chocolates you over here. You be talking about all the time. I need to definitely look into that. I'm a chocolate fiend. Thank you so much for the support, love. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jay. I'm about to pull up. Thank you, Linus. Jay, I'm about to pull it up right now. You guys, let's hear what the mother has to say. This the mother of the shooter. She is apologizing. This is so sad, man. This is so sad. Let's see what she has to say. Let's see. Let me get rid of myself altogether. All right, let's see what the mom has to say. This is the mother of the shooter.
Palabras. No tengo palabras. No tengo palabras para decir, porque no sé lo que estaba pensando. Él tenía sus razones para hacer lo que hizo. Y por favor, no lo juzguen. Yo nomás quiero a los niños inocentes que se murieron. Perdóname.
¿Qué les dices a los familiares de ellos?
Perdóname, hijo. Yo sé, él tenía sus razones.
¿Qué razones pudo haber tenido?
A que se acercaran más a sus niños en vez de poner atención a las otras cosas malas. No, yo no tengo palabras, no sé.
Escribe más.
Era bien calladito, era bien callado, bien. He was himself. Él no le molestaba a nadie, él no le hacía nada a nadie.
What the hell did she just say? What? Am I? Hold on. Did I miss something? She said, forgive him. Forgive me, forgive my son. I know he had his reasons. There are no reasons. What do you mean his what? There are no reasons. Wow. What do you guys think about this? What could possibly be his reasons? Obviously, we know there were none. But what is the mom saying? That the don't judge him, right? Is that what we're saying? No, he's absolutely needs to be judged. And you as a parent needs to be judged because you're still trying to justify his actions. Wow. I don't know. Lost in translation. I doubt it. This is a news network right here. There's no way they lost this in translation. Do we have any Spanish speakers in here? I got a couple of friends. I'm going to have to call real quick. Yeah, she's speaking Spanish, though. No. She's speaking Spanish. She's speaking Spanish. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll give you that. We need to get someone who can translate. But I can't. Any Spanish speakers on here? I know one. I'm gonna break this down, you guys, at a later date. I have a friend I'm gonna call. I'm gonna call her up and ask her to break this down. You on it? Oh yeah. Great pill. He got it. And he had his reasons. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. What reasons could he have had? I mean, to get closer to his children instead of paying attention to. Yeah, we need a translator. And if they put up bad subtitles on here, they're idiots for Newsweek for doing that because this is ridiculous. I will, the other bad things. No, I don't have any words to say. I don't know, you guys. Let me work on it. I know on Great Pill Podcast, he has someone he can reach out to. Do you need the link? GP, I can send it to you. Someone said Lucky said Newsweek is propaganda. Her remorse doesn't look real at all. The fact that she's even talking, I'm shocked that she even decided to even talk. I'd be afraid to go into the cameras, to be honest. Wow. Mm-mm-mm. Whew. Lord have mercy. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. But again, you guys, that's the mother. I'm gonna leave it at that. You guys, listen, we're gonna go ahead and close it out. I just wanted to cover that. It was a lot discussed. If you guys are just getting into the stream now, please run it back. Sorry I wasn't cammed up. You guys, normally cam up for these things, but it was so last minute. Running multitasking, I just didn't have time to get everything situated, and so I apologize. I know you guys want to see my amazing face, but my face go through some things too sometimes, brother. Got to be off cam. But anyways, you guys, listen, thank you so much for staying with us through this stream. A lot of great questions, great dialogue. Sorry I didn't bring anybody up. I didn't want to make this stream too long, to be honest. I didn't want us to get carried away from the topic. And we will be streaming again more than likely as updates come about. I'll keep you guys updated as well. And a lot of things are happening around us, you guys. Let's be alert. Let's be mindful. Let's not get caught up in too many distractions. To be honest, you guys, there's still inflation. There's still the housing market crash. The economic situation in this country is not looking good. And I think they've been using a lot of celebrities, a lot of events like this almost seem orchestrated to distract the public from a lot of upcoming problems that this country's facing. You guys stay vigilant. Make sure that you have stock food, you have good quality, non-perishable items. I plan on doing a show on emergency preparedness, and it keeps coming across my mind, and I feel like I'm not, being obedient to my intuition, and so I definitely want to have that. So please make sure, if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. The like button, the little bell icon, you guys, make sure you hit all that. And I think it's very important that we start talking about emergency preparedness. I will have the conversation. I'll see if I can bring some people on who are more skillful at it than I am. I can only share with what I do and what's important for you to have. I think these are the type of conversations we talk about. How do you prepare from a natural disaster? These are things that we need to be talking about, especially as a community and as a nation. So with that being said, you guys, I hope you found this stream informative and invaluable. You guys, we'll keep having these conversations. Very important. With that, thank you so much to my moderators, Shayla, Gail. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody who participated, brought up the great questions. Thank you for the donations, you guys. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot, and it goes a long way, especially on topics like this. I think at the end of the day, you guys, we just have to be, we got to pay attention. We got to be prepared for the unpredictable and not rely on government for everything. Because as you can see, when they are not trained properly or they don't have the best intentions, you guys, it doesn't work well for us. If you are interested as well, you guys, you see value in the channel, see value in the content, you can hit me up on PayPal or Cash App, you guys, if you want to donate to the cause for the mission. If not, I appreciate all of your support as well. If you want to become a member to the other channel, that goes a long way as well of helping produce this content, you guys. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate everything. Please continue to pray for the family And again, we will have these conversations moving forward. There's a lot to discuss, and there's a lot to. Oh, shout out! We have. She said you heard her correct. Cynthia. Thank you so much for verifying that. In reference to the translation, though, is it possible that we may be misinterpreting what she said, though? In your opinion, she said he had his reasons. And he was a quiet boy, didn't bother anyone. I think you are so right. She's obviously still coddling him. Yeah, I agree. Cynthia, thank you so much for that translation or confirmation. Because I was wondering if we may have misinterpreted the translation, which I know happens very easily with changing from language to language. Cynthia, thank you so much for that. That says a lot, you guys. I read some messages in reference to him texting other people from overseas, and he was he did have that melancholy type of approach about life and everything. And so I don't know why the mother is not sharing something extremely crucial that would shine light on this situation. Shout out to Great Pill again. Cynthia, thank you so much. God bless for that. I think it's so important that we got confirmation on that. Thank you so much. But there are some secrets, absolutely. And who knows? As the days go by, you guys, we will continue to update you. Thank you so much again for the support. Thank you so much, everybody. Cynthia, shout out to you again for that. And with that, you guys, let's stay vigilant, stay prayed up, you guys. And with that, good night and God bless.